Hello. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by OddsShopper. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. I'll tell you what, bro, it's good to be with you on a day where we didn't do the strategy show, and now we're kind of just starting this off fresh. I know you did it, but we didn't do it together.
Yeah, and this is the first show I've done today where I have an intelligent, coherent co-host, so that's always nice.
Oh, I love it. Just firing out of the gate, huh?
Yeah, I got him this morning, too. I also took a lot of pleasure yesterday. So he had DM'd me before the deeper dive yesterday. DM'd me like, hey, what do you think the starting lineup is for Memphis? And I said, Kyle Anderson. And he's like, oh, I think that's like the third choice, like blah, blah, blah. Then he does all that shit during our show in chat. I got so much pleasure out of jumping back into chat when Memphis announced that starting lineup and telling him he was wrong.
That's I love it. Well, happy to have you guys with us. Carlos Gomez, Laffy the janitor. I thought you were insulting me. And then I read the rest. Clean sweep on the OddsShopper props yesterday. Yeah, man, let's go. I think we're what? Not 12-3 this week. We got to close the week out strong. Whenever I start feeling good about it, it goes poorly. But yeah, over there on OddsShopper, check out the props video every day. They're a whole lot of fun. And we've been having a good week. You got to take them when you get them. You know what I mean? Yes, Kick's good. We do. To my surprise, have games tonight. We have basketball games tonight. And here I am showing up at work. Omar, intelligent co-host that didn't know what a romance language was. That's just never going to help me. I can promise you that much. Never going to help me to know what the language is. But thank you for the insult. Anyway, hit that thumbs.
Everybody thinks that I'm drunk, apparently. So,
are you drunk?
No.
You don't seem drunk even a little bit.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Thanks, Kobe. And subscribe to the channel. Big stuff coming. Almost 76,000 subs. Making things happen around here. And if you haven't, if you want, you can join the channel too. Down below, hit join. Get those free super chats each month, the custom emojis, sweet badges. They get better over like Malachor iced up, everybody iced up. And yeah, we're having fun. We're having fun today. So let's make it happen. Can we just talk about the Tim? I don't tweet all that often, but certain times I just start going on rampages, and I could not believe what the Timberwolves managed to pull off yesterday.
What you call on Twitter a rampage is like my normal like Tuesday night on Twitter. But
I know, but I have I have a life to take care of outside.
Sure, yeah.
I'm kidding. I have a kid and a wife. Things change. But would you say that's your normal Tuesday?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a rampage, obviously, but it was. Dude, do you know with 2 minutes left in the third, they had a 99.6% win probability? 99.6?
No, I didn't realize it was that much. I said to Josh this morning, I don't know. Obviously it was crazy that they came back and, that they blew that game. But I kind of felt like that game was like going to swing back for most of the night. I guess it was like late third, early fourth when it became a 20-something point game again. I assumed Memphis was done. But like in the first half, I kind of was just like, I was upset that I wasn't in like a live betting state, because it was like, okay, they're getting torched out of the gate by Patrick Beverley as their main offensive piece. I think this is going to turn around. But then like, again, in the second half, it obviously it looked a little bit worse.
Yeah. Wow. Joel Embiid has a torn ligament in his right thumb.
Damn. I just seen the notification or the message that he was dealing with an injury. I hadn't seen that it was a torn ligament.
He said he's going to play, and he will. I'd be shocked if he's not out there for as many minutes as he normally gets. But
yeah, mostly I just am very like, so far this is running out as like the perfect set of circumstances for Boston.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Honestly, I thought it was running. I thought it looked good for Philly too. It's like, assuming Embiid isn't hindered by it, which he definitely could be. But I don't know if he tore that ligament, but he hit that three to close out game three. Can it be that bad?
Right. That's always the weird thing. Like, when did he tear it?
Right. I don't know. But just back to what you were saying. I thought it was going to swing too. Ben and I were kicking ourselves yesterday because both of us were looking at that, and we're very upset at ourselves that we didn't hit Memphis live. At one point, they were plus 2,100.
I'll say someone this morning had said 17-1, and it's just like, I don't know, like to me, and take this with a grain of salt because I'm not in a state where I can easily bet. So I'm basing this on like 1 week that I spent in New York, basically. But it just seemed like you could put yourself in such good situations if you're watching a basketball game and you just see the underdog get out to like, a 12-0 run. And it's just like, okay, well, this really doesn't change anything. Like there's going to be runs over the course of a game. And so all that's happening now is you're getting the favorite like in the first quarter as a huge dog.
I said the exact same thing the other day to Josh when we were doing the live after lock show, and the Sixers tipped right as live before lock ended on Monday. And then we did the 30 minutes after. Sixers closed at 7.5. They were down 12-3 with 3 minutes gone in the first quarter, and the line moved to 3. So hit that immediately, like just what you're saying. It's a game of runs. You're going to get those opportunities always. And that's a spot. Memphis was different, not different. I shouldn't say it was different, but I thought they'd make a run. But then when Minnesota went back up by 20 at the end of the third, I'm like, you know what, this game, they probably don't come back from this, let alone win by 9.
Right. Yeah. That was the part where like the whole first half, I was just like, yeah, okay, we'll see. And then, it was like a 7-point game going into halftime. And it was like, yeah, this is going to go, Memphis's way the rest of the game. Then the end of the third, when they were down 20 again, I was just like, okay, maybe they're just not going to get this game.
Unbelievable stuff. Anyway, Paul Robertson, welcome to the team, man. Welcome to the team. Yeah, John. So the 3 props that I had over on the Odd Shopper channel that we got there on them, but I liked Utah. I got them I laid 6 on them. It moved to 8, and they ended up just getting smoked. I mean, they didn't just not cover; they lost outright. That was a bad loss for them. Can we just say before we jump into these games, because we only have 3 today and everyone's hanging out talking basketball and chat, can we just say Denver or the Dallas Mavericks, forget about personnel in terms of superstars, Adam, they are a highly impressive basketball team.
The Mavs?
The Mavs.
Yeah. Which I am enjoying. So I'm actually kind of torn because I really wanted Spencer Dinwiddie to fall on his face in the postseason, just because.
Didn't he foul out?
I don't know if he fouled out. He played well, but he just kept running his mouth on his way out of Washington, so I really wanted him to suck. But at the same time, towards the end of the regular season, multiple people on Twitter were like swearing to, like I would, kind of try and egg the Embiid people on by saying that Jokic should win the MVP. And like multiple people would come out of nowhere, say, no, it's Luka. He's got an even worse supporting cast than Jokic does.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're out of your mind. And then now you have that supporting cast beating Utah in the postseason without
in
Luka.
Utah.
Right.
So no, I'm sorry. That was my fault. That was Dallas, right? No. It was in Utah. Yeah. Because
it was in Utah. They beat them in Dallas and they beat them in Utah.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's the part of me that wanted Dinwiddie to just be absolutely horrible and just like blow every game. But I also just enjoy being right. So that was nice.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I didn't know he shit talked DC on his way out.
It was just like, it was like passive aggressive shit too. It was like, I tried to be a team leader there, but they like told me not to be. Like they wouldn't.
Oh God!
Like I tried to step up and I was like silenced. And then he said something else. I don't remember what else he'd said, but just another kind of like he wouldn't come straight out and say what he was trying to say, but it was just one of those like hopefully like my role in Dallas is better or something. Like it wouldn't flat out blame Beal or Unseld for whatever it was he didn't like, but at the same time was just like throwing them under the bus.
Yeah. Look, are you going to have Maxi Kleba and Davis Bertans and Reggie Bullock shooting, combined 95% from 3 every game? Probably not. But they're getting so many open, like baseline 3 looks that they couldn't miss. They just did you watch any of that game?
The Utah game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it on. I wasn't paying a ton of attention, but I had it on.
I didn't see the whole game, but every time I went back to watch it, it was just another baseline 3 from Dallas. Wide open.
Yeah, so all I was seeing from Twitter, from like any basketball account I follow, was Donovan Mitchell is just getting shit on defense.
Yep.
And then it's, just leaving wide open threes because they can't defend. And not just Mitchell, like every perimeter defender on Utah, but Mitchell specifically. And then it's just leaving wide open threes as a result.
Steve Case thanks for the super chat, came 13th out of 25,000 last night, and just wanted to thank Team Awesemo. Nothing big yet, but I'm working on it. Like the vid, peeps. Thanks, Steve, and appreciate that support. Yeah, hit that thumbs up. Get us up to 200 out of the gate. All right, you ready to talk a little basketball here?
One. So, which of the did you see Karl Anthony Towns quote after the game?
That dude is. I mean, hold on. I'm sorry, but the temper tantrums that this grown man, was throwing all game, and ended up with more fouls than field goal attempts. I need to hear what he said after the game. I did not.
He was asked, like, I don't remember the exact wording on the question, but I think it was something along the lines of like, as a player in a leadership position, like what does he do or how does he handle losing a game like that? And his response was basically that he'll go home and decompress and drink some wine. Like after shooting the ball 4 times in a game that they blew a 26-point lead.
So who gives a shit, basically, is what he said.
Right. So you had that, but then you also, did you see Donovan Mitchell's quote after the game?
No.
So, keep in mind, this is a game where Utah just gets torched on the perimeter the entire game, specifically Donovan Mitchell. After the game, he says that everything for Utah starts and ends with their defense.
Hold on. Swallow the wrong way.
So he says, are you good?
Yeah, I was on the screen the whole time, and I couldn't get to mute because my hands started to shake.
So he says that that everything starts and ends.
What did Mitchell say?
Yeah, so Mitchell says that like everything starts and ends with the defense for Utah. Keep in mind, he just got torched. But then he also follows that up by adding that Utah's finally started to play with more energy once they brought Pascal in for Gobert.
What? So basically, these guys are just I don't even know what to think.
Yeah, I could completely not self-aware.
There's zero self-awareness. That's incredible. Okay, well, I guess. Do you think Dallas wins this series? I mean, if Lucas should come back on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do. I like assuming Luka comes back and he's not banged up. I don't think they certainly could, but I still wouldn't say that Dallas is favored to take the series if Luka just like doesn't play. But with Luka back, I think they do.
I was just so badly waiting for a comment in chat that was like Mavs objectively better without Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
But no,
well, I mean, that's what like so much of Twitter last night was like, Rudy Gobert is getting played off the floor. I thought Rudy Gobert was supposed to be good at defense, blah, blah. It's like, what is he supposed to do when nobody on the perimeter can defend and they're just going to drive and then kick out for wide open threes?
Every time.
Right.
Every time. But you also got guys like Brunson that are deadly in that mid-range as well. So even if he pulls up on that drive, there's a lot of ways they can beat you, but that's why those threes were so open. And that's something to consider for DFS too, once Dallas is back on the schedule, if Utah has no answer for that at all.
Yeah, they're completely apparently incapable of defending outside of Gobert, who can only do so much at that point. And so somebody said that they were a Towns defender. So everybody was starting to like shit on Towns yesterday too. And I was like, this is dumb. Like everybody overreacts to, 1 game or 2 games or whatever. But then like that quote was just such an out of touch, stupid quote.
It was insane. All right, let's talk basketball. I have one final question for you. And I just want your quick answer. Like first thing that comes to mind. I'm walking the dog today. Something came to my mind. Why are they called a pair of pants and not just pants?
I have absolutely no idea.
Doesn't make sense though, does it?
No, I guess not, unless the pants, like unless you're referring to each like leg.
I thought that, but that also wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I'm sure someone smarter, more educated, of course, than myself. Yeah. Everyone's saying 2 legs, but no, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. It's not a pair of shirts because there's 2 armholes. Miami and Atlanta.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that saw that, Stephen Davis. I've been talking basketball this whole show, granted, not anything that has to do with tonight. You say, okay, now let's talk basketball. So I was walking my dog and I was thinking about pants.
Real quick. I'm done. I just had to get the chat going a little bit. It's fun.
Laffy, I found a maybe reason why they're called pants. So it goes back it goes back to like the days in the Old West when cowboys wore chaps, and so they would have to put one leg on at a time, and then a belt would hold them together. So they were separate at one point.
Oh, there we go. Good shit, Tyler. Thank you. See, we're learning stuff today. Good stuff. See, Adam, that was worthwhile.
Somebody said it's called a pair of pants because of salmon fish.
Miami. I just love the people that come and maybe didn't watch that show. So now there's all these references that make zero sense at all.
I went to the MVA today, and the lady that was renewing my license was talking to like one of her coworkers and said something. She was like, "What'd you have for lunch?" And she said salmon, and it was just the first thing I thought of. And it was like, I can't even like bring it up.
You mean salmon fish? The woman's like, "I'm having chicken." They're like, "No, you're having chicken bird."
Right.
All right, Miami, Atlanta. So the Miami Heat, 1.5-point favorites, 2-0 lead. They've had comfortable wins against the Hawks in both of these first two games in Atlanta. They travel or in Miami, traveled to Atlanta today. The first thing I just want to ask you about is Bam Adebayo, because I know, fouls were a bit of an issue, blowout last game. But do you think this quad injury is influencing his play right now? Because even when he's on the floor, he's certainly, and you don't even have Clint Capella on the other side, he certainly hasn't looked like the dominant Bam Adebayo we're used to seeing.
Yeah, his rates have been down across the board. Rebounding percentage is down. Usage rate is down to like 20%. But at the same time, I don't want to read too much into that because, for one, who knows how he's feeling today? Like, he could have been feeling it last game and the game before, and today he's better. But then too, it's still also just like a 2-game sample where, things happen. So I do think that it's worth noting that he hasn't played as well as normal, but at the same time, that price tag on DraftKings down to $7,000. He's not played full minutes in either of the first two games. Last game, he was in foul trouble. The game before that blew out, but he was on pace for 33 minutes in that first game. He played, had he not gotten in foul trouble in the first half, he was going to play about 17 minutes. So I still really do like Bam at this price tag, even with the minor concerns I have over the way he's played so far.
What do you have him projected for on rebounds? Just curious.
9.3.
Okay. Because he had an 8.5 rebound prop I was looking at earlier, and I didn't hit it. We haven't projected at 10 over at Odd Shopper. So, that's solid for sure. 66% expected win rate on that. I'm still, I don't know. I have some reservations about that, but you're probably right. And I don't want to act like this is going to be an injury that lingers forever. Shit. Chris Paul with that shoulder stinger last year, that bruised shoulder, was horrible against the Lakers, and then was a star through the remaining series. So I would assume he's good to go. I mean, he is questionable, but if he plays, we'll assume he's good. What about Jimmy Butler today?
So Butler's interesting to me because he has seen a nice bump in usage in this series. Some of that could be because last game Bam was in foul trouble, but it also just makes sense. We've talked about it a lot that guys that, when your best player is a guard and has the ball in his hands, he's just going to decide to shoot more pretty frequently in the postseason. Butler's usage rate is up around 32% through the first couple of games. 8,800 is a pretty decent price tag here. Played 39 minutes last game. Assuming tonight's competitive, I would expect that he ends up in that same range. The only thing that makes it difficult for Butler is while I do think he's a little bit underpriced, I don't think he's as underpriced as some of these guys on Chicago that project pretty similarly, but are like $1,000 less expensive. Or even, DeMar DeRozan, who's like the same price, but I think actually looks a little bit better. So I am interested to see what the ownership looks like on Butler. Right now on DraftKings, we only have him at 15%. That's pretty appealing because if you compare him to the Chicago guys, Levine at 28%, Vooch at 34%, DeRozan at 30%. I do think Butler is close enough to them that he shouldn't be getting half the ownership, but I do think those guys individually look a little bit better. So definitely interested in paying attention to the ownership there.
When was our last ownership update? I think it was like 13 minutes ago. Okay, sweet. Just wanted to pull a couple of things up here. So with Miami, none of them are actually getting a lot of ownership. And you were just talking about Butler there. But when you look at this team, we expect Tucker to go, right? Gabe Vincent's probable for this one. Caleb Martin played 5 minutes and then 17 minutes. He's questionable. But as you mentioned, I think it was after game one, we were talking about game two, where you're like, yeah, Duncan Robinson could get minutes, but unless he's shooting lights out, he probably won't. And then in game 2, he didn't. So the rotations here outside of guys like Bam, Lowry, Butler, and Hero, I definitely think there's a lot of uncertainty with this rotation, depending on how the game's going and who's playing well and who isn't.
Yeah, and I mean, even so, like Caleb Martin played last game, but that basically was just he soaked up like all the minutes that Bam was in foul trouble, basically.
Right.
So I'm not even confident that Martin's in the rotation here. He wasn't in game 1.
He didn't play game 1. I must have been looking at the game prior to that where he played 5 minutes.
He might have played garbage time in game 1.
Oh, okay, but he wasn't. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, he played the last 5 minutes of the game, but he wasn't in the rotation. So.
Right.
Like, I'm not comfortable saying Duncan Robinson's out of the rotation, but if Bam is not in foul trouble and none of the other main pieces are in foul trouble, one of those guys ain't playing. Vincent has seemingly carved out a nice role. So I'm assuming that you're getting like 18 minutes or so from Duncan Robinson, probably getting around 22 from Strus, 20 to 22 from Vincent. None of those peripheral guys look all that appealing to me. You know, in 150 lineups, if you get a little bit, that's fine. But it is worth noting, too, that we have much better value on this slate than we have on recent slates because of Booker being out and Middleton being out, and then just some soft pricing in general. So I don't think you need to be taking as many shots on the really low end value like we have on some other slates.
All right, Simmons. Simmons isn't playing Saturday. Players play Monday. Embiid's not going to be listed on the injury report. So that's good. Okay. Just curious there.
Well, that's good. He won't be on the injury report so that Doc Rivers can tell us 30 minutes before the game that he's a game time decision.
Yeah, right. Anybody else you want to hit on for Miami?
Lowry, Hero both look fine. They're more of just secondary plays for me, whereas I think Butler and Bam really stand out. PJ Tucker also, we haven't seen him play in the fourth quarter yet. Miami also hasn't been in a competitive game at the very end. So I don't know if Tucker finds his way into the closing lineup or not. But at 4K, I think, again, outside of just shots here and there, there's going to be better options you can get to. John
Collins is pretty interesting on the other end of this one, just because of that price point. And, when you're getting a John Collins start without Clint Capella, he's out there with Hunter, Gallo, Trae Young, Herter, a lot of rebounding opportunities. Of course, Miami, assuming that Bam is healthy, very good team at preventing rebounds and points in the paint, but still just moving Collins from the 4 to the 5. He played 29 minutes, closed last game out, played about 8.5 minutes to close it out. It's hard for me to think that you don't see Collins minutes in a must-win game increase even more today. I'm not saying he gets 40, but I think 33 is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I have him in for 32 right now. I think you can make a case really for anywhere from like 30 to 32, just factoring in that, we don't know exactly how he is health-wise, and foul trouble is always a thing, but I would expect them to try and play him more here. I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that he got to almost 30 minutes last game. And with him playing center, that is really productive. That's where you really want John Collins. So, granted, it is a very difficult matchup against Miami in general and Bam Adebayo specifically, but the rebounding percentage jumps, the usage rate jumps when he's playing center. Even if you just look at Trae Young on the floor with Collins playing center, the usage rate goes up a bit. Playing closer to the basket is nice. So I do think he's still underpriced at 5,900. Also has power forward eligibility, which is really nice. So I think it's him and Trae Young that really stand out to me the most from Atlanta. Young is a little bit different just because he's expensive at 9,400. He's not overpriced. I think there's still plenty of value there. He's likely to play a ton of minutes as well. But when you consider that those Chicago guys are less expensive, Jimmy Butler's less expensive, Bam is less expensive, Paul is less expensive, CJ McCollum is like $1,200 less expensive, then the opportunity cost kind of drives up that price a little bit, but still projects as one of the highest scoring guys on tonight's slate.
Yeah, we got free tools today, a lot of them over at awesemo.com. You don't have to register or whatever. You can just check them out. And if you like them, you can head to awesemo.com/join and check out everything else that we've got to offer, all of our tools. But today, NBA ownership rankings free, MLB player rankings free, NHL player rankings free, and MMA UFC pro plays also free. All of that at awesemo.com. And if you want to get access to everything else, we have every sport across the board. If there's contests out there, we got content, top stacks, top pitchers, ownership, player projections, everything, lineup builder, you name it, all the tools built by Awesemo himself. Check it out. But if you want to just check the free tools today, you can do that as well. And yes, Ryan, the stream. What is it? What's it called? What's that bot that we have, Tyler? Stream Elements. That is through us. Yeah, that's not someone just spamming links. That's legit. Plan B Smoothies with the 5 months free super chat. Laffy, without you, I'm nothing. Oh, that is so kind. Thanks, pal. And Josh of Los Angeles. Thanks, brother. Appreciate that. You're almost iced up. 12 months. You're a couple days away. All right. How else do we want to approach Atlanta outside of Collins? Because I think we agree that John Collins is at that sub 6K, even if he only does play 30, pretty appealing. Talk to me about some of these other guys that are getting some ownership tonight.
Yeah, the rest of Atlanta kind of just, I think, is the same thing that we've talked about all series long. Excuse me, all series long. Where
don't do what I did.
Yeah, I know. Where Bogdanovich, Herter, Hunter, Gallo, DeLon Wright, these guys are all fine, but they're pretty much appropriately priced. I think that they're relative to salary, they look pretty similar to Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry, where you're still going to get to them because it's a 3-game slate and they're going to help you round out your lineups, but they don't stand out as true priorities. Josh and I talked about it this morning. I do think there's a chance that Gallo's playing time takes a little bit of a hit again, just for defensive reasons, and that down the stretch you see Bogdanovich closing over Gallo with Hunter, Herter, Young, and Collins. So I have Gallo in for like 28 minutes. I think that, could even go a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher. But at 4,800, just sort of there. I think DeAndre Hunter is probably playing mid-30s, but it's not like he's a great point per minute guy. Out of the peripheral guys, Bogdanovich is the one that I feel the best about, just because he does have an elevated usage rate in this series, and I do think that he's likely to be in the closing lineup. And then DeLon Wright as a value option makes some sense. He played 29 minutes last game. He played about 21 in the first game. His production's been decent in this series. The usage rate and the assist percentage are pretty much in line with what he's done all season long, even though he is playing, the bulk of his minutes alongside Trae Young. But at 3,400, he projects well from a point per dollar standpoint. The issue I have is just that he's also projected for 28% ownership. Right now, we have him with a 20% chance of being optimal. So while that is still a good, relatively high chance of being optimal, and it's opening up a lot of stuff in your lineup, it still scares me playing, a 28% owned DeLon Wright when he projects for like 16 or 17 DraftKings points.
How many minutes do you project him for? He played 29 last game, 21 in game 1.
I have him at 24.
Okay. Aside from DeLon Wright, though, if we're just looking over some of the other guys, excuse me, that are going to get some good minutes, Hunter, Bogdanovich, obviously Trae Young, Kevin Herter, it's the same story all the time with these guys. Danilo Gallinari, like are there any guys that you prioritize outside of Collins? Probably be a better way to ask it. And what guys do you think are just good plays?
Yeah, I mean, Young would be the other one that I guess you could call a priority, but the issue there, like I said, is just you have so many good guard options that are even in a lot of cases less expensive than Young. Looking at the boom bust tool right now, though, it seems like ownership mostly is just kind of where it should be on Atlanta. We have Young going a little bit underowned. We have Collins going a little bit underowned. But then you have, Bogdanovich at 24% with a 22% chance of being optimal. Hunter at 26/24, 14 apiece for Gallinari, 18 apiece for Herter. So, and then, like I said, Wright projected to be a bit overowned, but still with a 20% chance of being optimal. So right now, I don't really see any like massive edge from those Atlanta guys. But if you did start to see a situation where, maybe Bogdanovich's ownership goes down or Hunter's ownership goes down, then, maybe you pounce on that. But right now, I kind of feel pretty neutral about everybody on this team that isn't Trae Young or John Collins. All
right. Let's talk about Chicago and Milwaukee, though. Should be a fun one. Bulls holding their own. Stole a game in Milwaukee. Thus far in the postseason, defensively, they've been excellent, but I don't think it lasts. Giannis, 1.72 DraftKings points per minute with Middleton off the floor this season, and he's dominant. I can't imagine there's really any way or idea that they're going to slow him down today. And another thing to consider, the Bucks have attempted more wide open threes through the first 2 games of this series than any other team in the league. 23 per game they're averaging. Yet they're not shooting well from 3 as a team at all. When they turn this around, they're going to come in and they're going to smoke Chicago. I don't know if it'll be today, but one of those games is on the horizon, and Giannis is going to have a big hand in that. So, and yeah, it's very difficult not to look at him tonight and think that he's not a phenomenal option against this Bulls team without Middleton too.
Yeah, and we just got Miami news. All of the questionable guys are available to play.
Yeah, okay.
So Bam, Tucker, Vincent, Martin, Morris, everybody's in. Doesn't mean they'll all play, specifically Martin and Morris, but they're all in. As far as Milwaukee goes, they look good. Like there's a lot of plays here that look good, but Giannis in particular, Middleton being out, it makes me like Giannis more. It's not that I think it actually has like a huge impact on his rates. He's been very similar in terms of his production, even without Middleton over the last couple of years, but it just makes it more likely that this game's competitive and that you get another game where Giannis plays like 38 minutes. We know that he's the best point per minute guy on the slate. And then the other thing that makes me like Giannis a lot is like last night, Jokic, for example, projected way better than everybody else. But the issue was that you had to go to guys like Kyle Anderson or McDaniels or Vanderbilt, who obviously was great, but coming in was a huge question mark. Tonight, you just have so many good options in that like 4 to 5K range. It's really easy to get to Giannis. So I think that it's different than even Jokic was last night. Right now, we have him with a 42.5% chance of being optimal on DraftKings, 43% projected ownership. Absolutely love getting the Giannis. Holiday looks very good at 8K as well. Nice usage bump for him without Chris Middleton, and he's likely to play a ton of minutes. So those guys stand out as the top two options. But then there's some value to be had too. Brook Lopez has played 32 and 34 or 35 minutes in the first two games. He's only 5,300. He looks, I think, good at that price. One of Pat Connaughton or Grayson Allen will most likely replace Middleton in the starting lineup. My assumption for now is Connaughton, but
me too.
It could
be
Allen.
Last game. He closed last game as well when Middleton went
down. The only reason I'm not sure is like they could just say we're going to go with Allen and keep Connaughton in his bench role
and still give him like 30 off the bench.
Right, exactly. But one thing that I had mentioned this morning with Josh, assuming Connaughton starts, I think Connaughton is the better play between him and Allen, but you're also likely to see a pretty big gap in ownership. Right now, we have Connaughton at 33.5%. We have Allen at 8%. They project a few points differently. Alex has them at 4 points apart. I have them at 3, but there's still some volatility there where, I think Connaughton, if he's starting, is the better option, but I wouldn't say he's like 5 times better. So that's a spot that you can certainly pay attention to in tournaments. So I think Giannis and Holiday are the top two guys here, and it's not particularly close. Lopez and Connaughton would be the next two. And then in tournaments, if you take some shots on a Grayson Allen or a $5,700 Bobby Portis, like hoping he plays a few more minutes or something like that, I think that's fine because there is a ceiling there, and they're not going to be particularly popular, but they're also a lot riskier.
How many minutes are you giving to Brolo?
I gave him 34.
Yeah, 34 for Brook Lopez. And if you have him for 34, obviously, like you're saying, there's always going to be a massive tier down from Giannis and Drew when Middleton's out to the next group of players. But, Lopez played 32 and 35 minutes, both competitive games. If you've got him in playing around 34 minutes at 5,300, it's a really appealing spot. And the reason I bring this up is he's 5,300 and John Collins is 5,900, but John Collins is getting like almost double the ownership of Brook Lopez today.
Yeah, that's interesting because I do have Collins projected better, but it's like 3 or 4 points better, and he is a little bit more expensive. So that combined with also Collins should get more ownership just because you can roster him at more positions. But yeah, like if you want to use Lopez as a pivot, I think that's perfectly fine. We don't have much of a sample of him playing without Middleton and with Holiday and with Giannis, but overall this season, Lopez in 365 minutes is at 0.96 DraftKings points per minute. You certainly could see him, a little bit more involved offensively without Middleton. So I do like that price tag. Somebody said no love for Bobby Portis. In large field tournaments, if you get to some of him, that's fine. Like if he finds a way to play more minutes, we know he's a good point per minute guy. He's in a good matchup, all of that. The issue is just with Lopez there, I have Portis for 24 or 25 minutes. I have a hard time going higher than that because I don't necessarily anticipate that against Chicago, you're going to see a lot of Giannis plus Portis plus Lopez at the same time. But if I'm wrong there and Portis plays 28 minutes instead of 24, or Lopez gets in foul trouble and Portis plays 28 instead of 24, he's going to look good. So he's kind of in that Grayson Allen category where I don't think he's particularly likely to succeed, but Alex has him at 9.5%, but he's also only projected at 7% ownership. So he is a high upside guy that, can differentiate your lineups.
Yep. Anybody else here for Milwaukee?
If Wesley Matthews were cheaper, I guess I would have some interest, but 4,100, even assuming he's going to play into the mid 30s, it's really tough for me to get to him.
The problem is that I think there's oftentimes an assumption that if a key player is out, say Chris Middleton, that it's going to the opportunities are going to be equally distributed throughout the team. You know what I mean? That's not the case. Like Connaughton, obviously a big bump, but not even really a usage thing. His usage rate with Middleton off the floor is still like 16%. It's just you're taking the extra minutes from him. Wes Matthews, I don't really envision his 4 field goal attempts ballooning to 10, Adam. Maybe he gets 4 or 5 again. It's just, if you're playing him, it's strictly because of the minutes and you're hoping he can knock down a couple of his threes like he did last game. That's it.
Right. And it's just like when Josh and I did the show this morning, when I started to talk about Matthews, I just assumed he was still going to be like 34, 3,500. And I was trying to bring myself to say that like, he's okay if you have to. And then I saw he was 4,100 and it was just like, if Wesley Matthews puts up a score that I have to have, I'm okay. Like I have him for 17 to 18 DraftKings points, which might be the highest projection I've had on Wesley Matthews in the last half decade, but that still puts him behind Connaughton and Allen just among guys at that price on this team. And that's not including, the Phoenix guys and the New Orleans guys and, guys from other teams that also look pretty good.
Let's talk a little bit about Chicago here. DeMar DeRozan last game was spectacular, but let's not sleep on Vooch either. He has attempted 18 threes in this series in 2 games. 18 threes. He has a 29.8% usage rate. Granted, only 2 games, but rebounding at almost 20% clip, playing a ton of minutes. Would have played a couple more yesterday or last game had he not been in foul trouble. So you're really looking at like 38 and 39 minutes in these games. He's been really good, man. Despite Milwaukee playing solid defense, Vooch has seen a ton of volume, a ton of minutes, great rebounding. Just very impressive what he's done. He's 7,700 tonight.
Yeah, Chicago should pull a ton of ownership across the board. Vooch certainly being one of them. The main 3 guys on this team are just really, really underpriced.
Yeah.
Vooch likely to give you 36 to 37 minutes. DeRozan and Levine likely to play 40 plus. I'm hesitant to project them higher than 40 just because shit happens in a basketball game. But if this game's competitive and nobody gets hurt or in foul trouble, I would expect north of 40 from them. So they all should get ownership. And really, like honestly, Vooch at 34%, DeRozan at 30, Levine at 29. All of those seem maybe a little bit low to me. Vooch in particular in the boom bust tool projected to be well under owned, 40% chance of being optimal, 34% ownership. So those 3 guys all stand out. And the nice thing too, because like if this were a regular season slate, you would have to put more thought, I think, into like, well, am I willing to play all 3 of these guys together? Or am I willing to play 2 of these guys together? Or am I just going to have like one on all of my teams? But the nice thing is, not only with it being a 3-game slate is the opportunity cost lower to where I certainly don't mind having 2 of them. And I'll probably have some lineups that have 3, but because Milwaukee looks so good as well, you just naturally can get some game stacks here where it's just like, all right, well, if I have Vooch plus Levine, or even if I have all 3, or I have Vooch, Levine, Caruso, chances are I'm going to be naturally, even without forcing it, pairing them with some combination of Giannis, Drew, Lopez, Connaughton, where if this game is high scoring, you're just going to naturally end up in a very, very good spot.
I agree. I was doing the betting video today and I was looking at a Vooch prop that I threw in there. And I had just gone over to DraftKings, over to the DFS side, and I saw 7,700. And I thought, like, if you told me, and I know that they're decreasing a lot of prices, like, regular season, Giannis is probably 12K. But if I told you that Vooch is playing 36 to 38 minutes tonight and he's been as involved as he is, you'd pay 7,700 for him any day of the week. So
yeah, for sure. And to your point about the decreasing prices, before I had like even run any sort of dummy lineup to see, like what my top projected lineups were, I actually thought that maybe it would be kind of difficult to get to Giannis because 11-2, he's certainly underpriced, but it's not like the glaring underpriced like guys like everyone on Chicago and Drew Holiday without Middleton and all of that. But because the pricing is so soft, like you can get Giannis plus 1 or 2 of the Bulls guys or plus Holiday or something like that, and it's really easy. So I do think this is just going to be a slate where it's really high scoring because so many players in all tiers are underpriced.
Absolutely. And did you notice Levine has a 22% usage rate in this series? so far?
No, I hadn't gotten that far yet.
It's only 2 games, but I mean, it's been DeRozan and Vooch shouldering a lot of the load here. And that isn't to say that Levine played 43 minutes last game. So as we talked about with Mitchell, if you're playing that many minutes and your usage is going to look lower, although not Mitchell, but just in the sense of playing a lot of those minutes. If you were to look at all of these guys, if you're factoring in just position eligibility, opportunity cost there, and salary, how would you rank them with DeRozan, Vooch, and Levine, with all of them being, as you mentioned, underpriced and similarly owned?
Yeah, to me, they're all pretty comparable. Like relative to salary, I have DeRozan as the top guy, but he also is the most expensive. So even when I say, relative to salary, obviously it's just going to be a little bit more difficult to get to him than it is Vooch or Levine. The Boom Bust tool. So for Alex, he has Vooch as being the most underowned. The center position tonight is good, but not great. Depending on what you think about Bam, I think I'm a little higher on him than a lot of people in chat, it seems like, or at least I'm more willing to take a risk on him. But I'm not, super confident there. You can play Collins at power forward. You can play Giannis at power forward. Lopez looks fine. Ayton and Jovel look fine, but it's not quite as deep a center slate. So I think that Vooch is probably the one I get to first, I guess. But really, I really like DeRozan. I really like Vooch. I really like Levine.
Okay. When it comes to Caruso, it was interesting last game because he played 38 minutes. Kobe White and Dosunmu combined for like 16 minutes. And you just saw Caruso out there a ton, which, by the way, over 1.5 steals. This is, we've been on this for a while now. Over 1.5 steals. The best odds I think you're going to find in that right now over at BetMGM. And we are introducing something called the Live Before Lock sports betting offer of the day. I tell anybody this: unless you're Josh Engelman, if you found $200 laying on the ground as you're walking, you would pick it up, right? You would pick it up. Unless you're Josh, who said he just wouldn't pick up a 20 if it was on the ground. You would pick it up. That is exactly what you're getting with BetMGM's offer. All these books are just vying for your business right now with sports betting booming. Tyler, throw that link in chat. Thank you. Already did. Or in the description. It just sends you to our landing page. You sign up there. You only have to deposit $10. You bet $10 on any game. And if one three-pointer is made, you turn that 10 into $200. Simple as that. No strings attached. I think they give you 4 $50 free bets, but still you got 4 free $50 bets just by putting $10 on a guaranteed win. It's not even like, oh, if this hits, I turn 10 into 200. It's 10 into 200 on a virtual lock. It's a lock. A 3 will be hit. 10 into 200 BetMGM. So check that link out if you haven't done so yet, but you got to use the link in order to get that offer. And we'll see you over there. While you're there, hit that Caruso prop as well. All right. The rest of Chicago, how else do you want to approach them? I guess you can start with Caruso and we can work our way down. There's not much below him and maybe like Patrick Williams.
Yeah, there's pretty much nothing there. Chicago ran an insanely condensed rotation last game. I expect that you'll see something similar here. Maybe not quite. You can't project it quite to that extent just because, again, things happen. But if Chicago gets their way, I think you see a very similar rotation where Levine and DeRozan are 40 plus, Vooch is upper 30s, Caruso's upper 30s, and then Williams is low 30s. So I don't really see any reason to go to the Derek, anybody beyond like the starting 5, basically. But you do get, whereas, DeRozan, Vooch, and Levine look like clear top tier plays, Caruso and Williams still look like solid value options. Williams at 4,200, around the 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy, likely to play 30 to 32 minutes. Caruso likely to play a ton, 0.7 to 0.8 fantasy points per minute at 5,100. Neither of those guys are likely to put up a score that you have to have, but it's more so that they just open stuff up for you elsewhere in your lineup. Josh and I had kind of talked a bit about Williams' playing time this morning, and I kind of came around to what he was saying, or at least, that there's a chance he's right, which is more than I can usually give him credit for. But my thought process had kind of been in game 1, you got more minutes from Kobe White. It was like 22 minutes for White, 24 for Williams. That was a game where Chicago was playing from behind. White gives you more offensive firepower. Game 2, Kobe White barely played. Patrick Williams played 32 minutes. Josh's counter, and so I was kind of saying, okay, well, what if they're losing this game? Does Kobe White get back out there for 20 to 24 minutes? And Josh's point, and I think I agree, was just that even though White gives you a higher upside offensive option than Williams, assuming that none of LaVine, Vooch, or DeRozan are injured or on the bench for some reason, it doesn't really matter because you're still not going to want Kobe White out there chucking up shots over any of those guys. You probably, even if you're trying to come from behind, would prefer having Patrick Williams out there to maybe slow somebody on Milwaukee down and keep them from scoring every possession while LaVine, Vooch, and DeRozan try and bring you back. So I do kind of agree with that where, obviously if somebody like LaVine or DeRozan were to get hurt, they're going to turn to Kobe White to just try and catch lightning in a bottle offensively. But assuming those 3 guys are in, you don't want Kobe White taking shots from them anyway. So I think there's a good chance that you just see Patrick Williams one way or another get 30-plus minutes again.
All right. How much Caruso do you want?
Whatever I get to.
Just curious, like, are you fine getting a decent amount of him?
Yeah, he kind of – so we have him projected to be a little bit over-owned, but – nothing crazy, 20% ownership, 14% chance of being optimal. Certainly we'll pay attention to the ownership between guys like him, Patrick Williams, Herb Jones, Cameron Payne, Cameron Johnson. But, Connaughton, those, Brooke Lopez, guys like that, in that price range. But I do think that Caruso projects pretty well for his salary.
All right. You got anything else on Chicago? You want to move it on here?
No, I think we can move on.
All right. Is that right, Tyler? We have F1 now, F1 content, Formula One content. Okay. F1 DFS. It's on DraftKings. And yes, we have projections for it as we do for everything. Link in the video description, man. Use that promo code ZOOM, ZOOM, or just be wise. Go to awesemo.com/promos. Get your first week of Formula One projections for $1. It's a good way to let figure these projections out. Determine whether you want to make this whole F1 thing a part of your DFS weekends. Offer valid through April 30th. That's Saturday. Zoom is the promo. Just go to awesemo.com/promos or use that link in the description. $1 for the entire week. Even if you're not into it, check it out. Basically free. All right. So Phoenix covers the 2 points tonight, right, Adam? I think they do. You don't have to agree. I'm just saying.
I hadn't put any thought into it, but
2.5. Here's what I think they do. They're allowing 50% 3-point shooting to the Pelicans through the first 2 games. There's just no way that continues. There's no way this team with a defense like this continues coughing up 50% 3-point shooting to this Pelican squad. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, we know that 3-point shooting to a large extent is just luck based.
Right.
I mean, not like individual.
No, some guys are good 3-point shooters, but as a team, you're gonna. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I just wanted to correct that before somebody made a comment like Steph Curry's luckier than Andre Drummond or something.
No, I know what you meant. I know what you meant. I think just Phoenix, even without Devin Booker, I still think they are a markedly better team than the New Orleans Pelicans. Shout out to Ingram. Great game. McCollum's played great. I'm a big fan of Jonas Valanciunas, but team has very little depth. Even outside of those guys, there's not much there, even if you don't care about depth in the postseason. But anyway, let's kick this off with the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul, $8,900. And he's getting around 27% ownership. Same ballpark as a lot of these other similarly priced guys we've talked about. It just feels like this is, one of those games where if Chris Paul went for 35 and 15, I wouldn't be shocked. But is that price tag good for you?
Yeah, I think it's fine. The only issue is that, he is more expensive than all of the Chicago guys.
Right.
He's $400 less expensive or $500 less expensive than Young. He's more expensive than Butler. He's more expensive than McCollum. So you do have to keep all of that in mind, but he does get a bump without Devin Booker.
I'd rather play Chris Paul over Trae Young, honestly, in this matchup for Trae.
I think it's pretty close.
What?
I think it's pretty close.
So I'm not saying it isn't. Chris Paul without Devin Booker against the Pels to me is a far better spot. But
yeah, I mean, the one concern I have, and I don't care much about individual defense, but the one thing that I am kind of nervous about, it's versus the Pels, so overall it's a good spot. But who the hell is Herb Jones guarding now if it's not Chris Paul?
I know. Yeah. I mean, he's just going to, this is my thinking, right? And maybe you can talk, maybe you can walk me back on this. I'm happy to hear it. Will he play a few minutes alongside Cam Payne? Sure, he did last game. But if Chris Paul is out there, who else is doing any of the ball handling? Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Ayton? Who's it going to be?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I don't put a whole lot of weight into individual defense. It's basically, to me, like if Herb Jones were to like be ruled out right now, Chris Paul would look even better, but I like him one way or the other. He's played 8 games without Booker this year, 21.1% usage rate, 47.4% assist percentage, 12 games without him since the start of last season, 24% usage rate, 47.5% assist percentage, 1.22 DraftKings points per minute in those 12 games. So I do still think he looks really good. I just wanted to mention Herb Jones as like the one negative that you run into with Booker.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if Paul plays, just a ton of minutes and is forced to do everything just from a ball handling standpoint tonight, because I don't know who else they have.
Right. Yeah, he's going to do everything while he's on the floor.
Do you start? Who's starting? Landry?
My
Cam
guess
Johnson?
My guess is Cam Johnson, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was Shamet.
Me neither. Because Johnson is kind of vital off the bench if in a spot like this, but I guess you could start him and just play Shamet start Shamet, play him 18 minutes too. You could do that. But anyway, your thoughts on the rest of the Phoenix Suns, starting with, Cam Johnson. And we had a super chat. I saw that. Thank you for the super chat. He just asked about Cam Johnson, so we can tie that up here.
Yeah, so Cameron Johnson, one way or the other, I think should play more minutes because, like, even if he's coming off the bench, you have to keep in mind that you're talking about 40 minutes from Devin Booker being vacated, and I don't think Landry Shamet's going to just step in and play all of those. Right now, we have Johnson projected for 32 minutes. We have Shamet at 25. Those both make sense to me. Cameron Johnson at 4,700 makes him look really good. He's not a bad point per minute guy at all. And then you're just getting most likely increased playing time here at a price tag that hasn't moved. In the games that he's played the last 2 seasons without Booker and with Paul, 12 games, 0.8 DraftKings points per minute, 31.2 minutes per game, makes him look like a good value. He's the only guy that I think, in addition to Paul, really like moves into priority territory without Booker. I think that Booker being out makes it so if you want to gamble on a $3,800 Shamet, hope he shoots the lights out, that's fine. Certainly somebody you could use, for example, as a pivot off of DeLon Wright. DeLon Wright projected for 28% ownership, Shamet projected for 5%. I think DeLon Wright's the higher projected play, but if you gave me 5-1 and told me I had to take Landry Shamet, I'm taking that all day and very happy about it. But you're certainly not going to be overly confident. Similarly with Cameron Payne, I think on average you probably get 20 to 22 minutes. At 4,500, he can get it done there. I mean, he's a good point per minute guy. But there's also the non-zero chance that I'm wrong about the rotation, Alex is wrong about the rotation, and Cameron Johnson plays 26 minutes or 27 minutes. And if that happens, then he's going to look really good. 9 games with Paul and without Booker since last year, 22.8 minutes per game, 1 DraftKings point per minute. So it's not like you need that much to break your way for Payne to end up being a good play. Right now, ownership-wise, he's only getting 9%. That's pretty appealing to me. He was a lot more popular this morning to where it was just like, I don't know that I really want to get there. But now I don't mind just kind of rolling the dice there and hoping things break in my favor. But it's still certainly not somebody I think's a really high probability option. Jay Crowder looks maybe a little bit better without Booker, Mikal Bridges, but like neither of those guys, you don't expect either of those guys to really take on increased usage. DeAndre Ayton looks a little bit better, but also not somebody that it's not like he's going to create for himself or for anybody else. So 7,600, he still looks decent, but I think that Cameron Johnson and Chris Paul are the 2 guys I'm most confident in. And then it's kind of just throwing darts at any of, I think Ayton's the 3rd guy. And then it's kind of just throwing darts at Bridges, Payne, Crowder, Shamet, Torrey Craig, if you wanted to at 3,200. Same kind of logic as Shamet, where, I think my assumption and most people's assumption is that Shamet steps into a much bigger role for his shooting. But if Phoenix is winning this game, you could certainly see Torrey Craig step into a bigger role for defensive reasons. And he's not a bad point per minute guy. So certainly not confident there, but we don't really know exactly how this rotation is going to play out without Booker.
All right. So Eric and Greg are coming up next, and they're taking you 30 minutes after lock. That should be fun. Hang out with those guys if you're not doing anything after 7, but stick around right after this for Live Before Lock Those fellas put on a good show. And oh my God, 270 likes, not even 300 likes yet. Not even, I mean, what? I blame myself partially. I forgot to bring it up. But if you haven't done so, take that single second. Atone for
I got us to
sin
271.
and hit that. What's up?
I got us to 271.
Oh, that was you, huh? I saw that. I saw that. Yeah, okay.
Thanks for the reminder, man.
Yeah, I got you, man. I got you. I'm trying to remind everyone, help us get to where we need to go. It's Friday night. We should all be happy. Now, here we go. There we go. Thank you. Trey Michael says, what are we doing, chat? That's what I'm saying. Just get us there. Get us there. It's a good place to get to. Appreciate you guys. We'll get there. I mean, 400's got to be easy at this point. 386, 500 coming. I mean, doubling up right here would be awesome. I wouldn't ask if it didn't actually help us either. I mean, quite frankly, I wouldn't give a shit, but it does help us and subscribing and all that stuff. So 400 likes. There we go. Appreciate you guys. All right, let's talk about the Pels. It is where's the fella? Was it Daryl Ward? Hey, Daryl, that said, you're not getting I didn't forget about that. That Brandon Ingram wasn't getting the 15 points. I thought he said fantasy points, but he said 50. Anyway, dude had a game of his life, had like 70 DraftKings points and willed the New Orleans Pelicans to a convincing victory on the road out there in the desert.
Yeah, willed me to a pretty nice night as well. So I was happy
Nice.
about that one. His price tag shot up. So early in the series, early in the postseason, you were getting Brandon Ingram at like a huge discount, even to CJ McCollum. Now they've kind of flipped spots where Brandon Ingram at 9K certainly is fine, but CJ McCollum at 8,200 is one that stands out as just being drastically underpriced here. These guys both, you can expect to have usage rates, upper 20s, low 30s any given night. They're both going to play a ton of minutes. They both should approach 40. So it's kind of just whichever one is less expensive is the one that people are going to gravitate to and the one that you should prefer. But then at the same time, you're just going to get lower ownership on somebody like Ingram because from a projection standpoint, there's no real reason to pay more for Ingram than you're paying for McCollum. So that's just a really interesting spot to pay attention to in tournaments. Both guys look good. McCollum certainly looks better just because he's cheap. Joe Val at 7,400 is fine. He's somebody that, like, if people are going to go to DeAndre Ayton or go to, Vooch, I guess is the one people are really going to go to. Vooch projects better than Joe Val, but one game sample, we know that Valanciunas is certainly capable of just putting up a monster game. And then you can look here for some value as well. Herb Jones, the one that I think really stands out. Somebody had just mentioned him in chat. He's not a great point per minute guy, but for the season, he's at like 0.73 DraftKings points per minute. He's likely to play a ton of minutes. He played 40 last game. If he can avoid foul trouble, that he should be out there a lot again. He's the kind of guy that you can feel a little bit more confident in his playing time in the postseason. Whereas, you get guys like Devontae Graham, for example, that kind of had these fringe roles in the regular season and just aren't necessary in the postseason because you have McCollum and Ingram playing so many minutes. Those guys take a step back, whereas your lockdown defenders like Jones play as many minutes as they can. At 4,500, it's pretty easy for him to run into a pretty good stat line here. After that, you get really risky pieces, but you did get 20 minutes last game from Jackson Hayes. You got 20 minutes from a $3,600 Trey Murphy. Volatile playing time for both of them. Hayes had only played like 14 minutes the game before, but they're cheap enough where you don't need a lot to go right for them to get there. Larry Nance, to a smaller extent at 4,200, kind of fits that boat as well. So I think McCollum is the priority. Ingram, Joe Val, Jones all look pretty good at their prices. And then if you want to gamble on Nance, Murphy, Hayes, any of those guys are okay.
Who's your favorite high-end player not named Giannis? So by high-end, like the 8 to 9K guys.
There are so many that look similar.
I know, that's why I asked. All right, give me like your top few. I think that's fair. It'll be a helpful question for everybody watching right now.
Yeah, Young, DeRozan, Paul, Drew, McCollum.
I know it's tough.
Yeah, I think ownership ends up dictating a lot for me in that range because, I think Young. I personally think Young and DeRozan look a little bit better, and then it's like Paul, Holiday, McCollum, I guess, but. You're just splitting hairs. I mean, if you tell me that you like Vooch more than McCollum for 500 less,
you're not going to argue it.
Right. I'm not going to argue with it. It's just, I kind of think they should be very similarly owned across the board. So if any of them show up as being lower owned, I'll probably just kind of gravitate there.
And your favorite value play right now, if you had to pick one?
Let me see.
And Connaughton's 4K.
Like sub 5K, Cameron Johnson, sub 4,500, probably Connaughton.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Greg and Eric coming up next. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Remember, you want that 10 turned into 200. Go over to use that link, BetMGM, baby. Just bet a game. Team score, bet a team from a game. And the team scores or hits a 3, you're in. 4 free $50 bets to build that bankroll up from the ground. We'll see you back here after the weekend. Have a good weekend, a safe weekend. And follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Laffy_D. Appreciate you guys. Peace.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the NBA Live Before Lock show. It is Friday. It is April 22nd. Looking forward to this 3-game NBA slate. Go Pelicans. I'll just throw that out there. Hit that like button, subscribe button. I don't know what happened to the like button, but it didn't get hit nearly enough on the last show. Shame, Luffy. Shame. Well, Adam didn't do anything. Let's be serious. But my buddy Greg over here, he's about to do a lot of things, help you guys out with all the information here for this NBA slate that I think has some really, really nice tournament plays on it. Greg, how you doing, my dude?
Yeah, doing good. We had really nice weather here in New Jersey. It was mid 70s degrees, sunny, no clouds in the sky. Got to spend some time outside, which my doctor tells me I'm not supposed to do. But like what am I realistically? I know we joke about.
I also like to live dangerously,
which is also the thing. So I'm because of my autoimmune disease, I take all this medicine for it, and part of it is I'm like really susceptible to the sun and whatnot, which it's supposed to be our friend, the sun. So I'm not supposed to go outside at all. I'm not supposed to be exposed to the sunlight. But today I did get a little frisky and spend most of the day outside. And I think the doctor's going to have to deal with it. Here's the compromise. I put on sunscreen. I go to the dermatologist twice a year to get skin checks. And I think that should be good enough. If I die, so be it.
The compromise is immunocompromised or something like that. There's a joke there somewhere. I'm not going to look for it. Maybe this is why one person in chat just hates me. Thomas, you hate me. That's okay.
I like how you think it's only one person. Oh no, one person. I could count it over. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's way more than one, Eric.
All right, let's talk this NBA slate 3 games.
5,
we have things to talk about here now. I'm sad.
13.
It's fine. 13. Lost track. It's like Magic Johnson on the winning team, just counting partners. But by the way, I really enjoy that show. Apparently, Jerry West does not. I was reading up about that before the show. Oh my lord! Oh my lord! Have you seen this?
I haven't seen the show, but I've seen about the lawsuit. So also, it's a TV show. Who gives a shit? He's really that upset. Have you seen the show?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Is he really portrayed that poorly?
Yes. Here's the thing. It's gotten better after like the first 3 episodes where he's just basically a raging alcoholic or something of that nature akin to it. He's really not portrayed great. We'll put it that way. He's like throwing his trophy around. He's the funniest guy on the show, which is saying something when you have like Jason Segel and what's his face? The main guy who plays Jerry Buss, who's in every movie since Boogie Nights to Step Brothers to everything. Why am I blanking on his name? But either way, funniest character on the show is Jerry West somehow.
John C. Reilly?
John C. Reilly, thank you.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a big feat considering, again, Jerry West is the funniest part of that show.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, he is clearly not happy with how he's portrayed. He's demanding a public apology. Do you really care that much? If somebody made a TV show of this show for whatever reason, somebody decided our show needed a TV show, would you care how they portrayed us?
It would be SNL. That's the thing. It's like it's because it's a network TV program that somehow people think that this is exactly the way it went down. If this were like an SNL skit, nobody would give a shit.
He's only mad because
some people definitely care about how they're portrayed on SNL. There is no doubt about that. We have certainly seen people who are unhappy with how they're portrayed in SNL in the media. But yeah, I'm actually, it's funny because I know this is not his intention, but he's gotten, I hadn't seen the show. I was planning on watching it at some point, but he's so upset about how he's portrayed that it makes me want to see how he's portrayed in the show, which is probably not his intention.
You should go see it. It's I'm enjoying it. I know it's completely fictionalized. I know it's pretty ridiculous. Everybody's under 6 feet on this show. So like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when he's up there, I'm like, this is different than I imagined, 7'2" Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to be, but such is life. Hard to go direct portrayal. Adrian Brody, also pretty nerdy Pat Riley, no doubt about it. But let's get to it, my friend. What sticks out to you on this 3-game slate before we dig in?
What sticks out to me is that Chris Middleton is out for the Milwaukee Bucks. And as a result, Giannis Antetokounmpo looks better. Jrue Holiday looks better. Pat Connaughton looks better. And on the Bulls side of the game, particularly on DraftKings, we've seen this entire series that these players are not getting priced appropriately on Chicago. So it's a 3-game slate. And this isn't something I've gone out of my way to do, but just kind of naturally how pricing works out. I'm going to be rooting for overtime in that Chicago-Milwaukee game because I have a lot of exposure to it on DK.
Yeah, I think we're pretty similar with that. I think there's some interesting Phoenix pieces to extract. We'll go through some Miami-Atlanta, which I think is the least intriguing. However, Jimmy Butler's been a god. I know you've been high on him. Let's get to it here. We go position by position. Once again, I need you all to hit that like button. We've got, over 1.7K of you guys hanging out here. It would really go a long way to have us get more likes on this show than what Laffy got on the last show with everybody coming in and smashing that like button. I just want that so badly for us. And if not for me, do it for Greg Ehrenberg, the 50% of the duo you guys like.
Yeah.
It's fine. Jrue Holiday, you talked about a little bit there with no Chris
Ja Rule Holiday, according to some.
What?
The Ja Rule Holiday, according to some.
Who said that?
Oh, you don't remember that from our group chat?
No,
never mind then.
I don't remember. I forget
All
things.
right.
The way you talk. Yeah. Pat Connaughton's there too, 33.5%. I mean, he's just crazy popular. And I don't know, really. There's a lot of options that they have for this. They have Grayson Allen. They have Wesley Matthews. They have a lot of guys who can fill in time. Javon Carter as well. I don't feel the best about Pat Connaughton, but Drew Holiday for sure. I'm just curious how he fits in the landscape of guards. I haven't been that high on him for this series from a fantasy perspective, but how do you view him next to the other guys in that 7-8K range? Zach LaVine, CJ McCollum, Chris Paul. Who are you prioritizing at the top end of guard?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys ideally we would like to prioritize all of these guys because you go into the playoff slate and you generally think, hey, there's not going to be as many injuries. There's not going to be guys resting. And now everybody's hurt, which is kind of part of the game in the playoffs. I think it gets overblown that, hey, this championship is an asterisk because decided by this injury and this guy was out. It happens every year where there's massive amounts of players out. But right now we also have a bunch of guys out and it's impacting DFS value in a pretty big way. So of what you mentioned here, here's the difference between some of these situations. The Devin Booker injury, for whatever reason, doesn't seem accounted for at all. I mean, the Devin Booker injury is accounted for in the DraftKings pricing, whereas the Middleton injury is not. Like Giannis is too cheap. Drew Holiday is too cheap. Pat Connaughton still remains a really good value play, whereas Chris Paul's been priced all the way up to 8,900. He's still playable there, but it's not quite as good of a price point as like what we have on a Drew Holiday, for instance.
Agreed. I think he's just the guy I want to get to the most at 8K here. We have one of the main three out for Chicago. You play the other two. When you have one of the main three out, going back through time, through any type of three-man scenario like this, you just have to play more Drew Holiday, I think, in this spot. And the field only having 32% of him feels a little bit low to me. I'm not sure if that feels low to you.
So let's see. Drew Holiday, 50. You said 50% seem
32%.
Okay, I was confused. I just misheard the number. I was like, because I wasn't sure because DK's 30, he's 32. FanDuel, he's 47. So I wasn't exactly sure which one. Okay. It was you're referencing, but
I was referencing DK, just looking at the boom bust tool. I mean, it's one of those things where he's there's positive leverage to go to him. And that seems impossible. Like that seems impossible for this slate, but that's possible.
So in the current build I have right now, I have 40% of Ja Rule Holiday, according to some. So as you really don't remember that?
No, I don't. But now I have every Ja Rule song going through my head. But specifically, I'm Real with Jennifer Lopez.
Oh my God. Very disappointing. Either way, we'll have to talk about this afterwards. So I do think he's a little bit under-owned, but at the same time, there's a lot of guys I want to get to at the guard position. And still, we have all of these guys on the Bulls that are also crazy underpriced in kind of a similar price range. And I know some of them don't have guard eligibility, so it's not necessarily an apples-to-apples comparison. But I want to get to DeMar DeRozan. I want to get to Zach LaVine and Drew Holiday. So I'm overweight to him, like I said, at 40%, but it's not something where I'm like 70% Holiday or anything.
Okay. No, that's good to know. I mean, I'm going to get to near 55% of him. It seems like I'm not officially done with everything that I'm doing here, but just wanted to talk about him. He seems like the guy that I'm prioritizing the most up at guard. Is there anybody at the top end of guard that you're vehemently against getting to on this slate?
So let's see, vehemently against.
Yeah, because I mean, Trae Young compared to Chris Paul, it is a lot more difficult for me to land on Trae Young because of Chris Paul. I'm not vehemently against it. I'm pretty sure that I am going to be playing the most out of any spend up. DeMar DeRozan, we'll get to that one. But CJ McCollum, 8,200 is an absolute smash and has been for quite a while. I just find it hard to land on Trae Young today. And maybe that means that I need to play more of him at home against Miami, but compared to cheaper options and guys that I project, maybe not in the same ballpark. I mean, he's nearly 50 fantasy points here on DK here at Awesemo. But then we've got guys like Chris Paul, no Devin Booker, and really only $800 difference. It's so easy for me to land on Chris Paul, CJ McCollum, and those guys today. The Trae Young becomes kind of the forgotten guy.
So let's see. Where do I have? I am underweight to Trae Young. I wouldn't vehemently against might be a little bit too strong of a phrasing for me, but I understand what your sentiment is there. And yeah, I am underweight to Trae Young because ultimately, to the point you mentioned before, I like Chris Paul more than him. I like CJ McCollum more. I like Drew Holiday more. I like Zach LaVine more. and you can't play everybody. You can't be overweight to everybody. So he is somebody that kind of falls by the wayside a little bit, unfortunately. And the other thing too is it's not like he's low owned compared to those guys either. He's picking up 24% ownership, 26% from McCollum, 26% for Chris Paul, talking about DK right now. So it's kind of, these guys are all similar in terms of price, around the same neighborhood, similar in terms of ownership. It's just who do you like best on a points per dollar basis? And I do like Trae Young the least out of those guys. So I have about half the amount of them that the field has at the moment.
All right, well, let's start going down into this mid-range here, which doesn't really exist for me at guard. It's pretty hard to land on a lot of Kyle Lowry or Tyler Hero or any of these guys. Is there somebody that's sticking out to you from 5K to 7K? Because I really have nobody that I'm that interested in playing at guard.
Let's see, 5K to 7K. That might be almost, oh no, Alex Caruso. Caruso, Caruso, somebody I get exposure to. He's somewhat popular, 20%, but I'm a little bit overweight to him. We've seen Caruso play big minutes in this series, particularly last game, competitive. There was no foul issues. He ended up playing 38 minutes. It looks like if everything goes well for Caruso, we're looking at upwards of 40 minutes of playing time for him. So 5,100, I think he's the guy that makes the most sense in that price range you gave me, but there's nobody else that I have more than 10% exposure to.
All right. Well, that just leads me down to the cheap end here. 42 minutes before lock. Want to make sure we get through every position. And I think guard kind of gets wrapped up here talking about the cheapies. Pat Connaughton, I alluded to. I find him to be very, very thin value on this slate. And if he's going to be 33.5%, play him in your cash games. I want nothing to do with him in tournaments. 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy. I'm not sure what the minutes look like. Are you as against playing Pat Connaughton today as I am?
No, because I want to pay up for all those guys that we mentioned before. I think Connaughton is going to play over 30 minutes today. And with that, I think he starts. And as long as he starts, I feel good about it. If we get a different starting lineup for the Bucks and it's not him, then yeah, I have to lower my minutes expectation and then also like him less as a DFS option. But at least as things stand right now, there are only a limited amount of cheap guys that I want to get to, and there's a lot of expensive guys I want to get to. So I had a pretty good slate last night, and it was predicated kind of on playing some weirder cheap guys. Like I played, I had exposure to Xavier Tillman, which was whatever. It didn't go that well for him individually, but it enabled me to pay up more for Jokic, which went well. Like Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton II, the mitten, was somebody who I had some exposure to, which also just enabled me to pay up for stars. And I kind of think it's the same for this slate, where I want to get these cheap guys in that I think could be serviceable to allow me to play more of Giannis, because Giannis is such a high priority for me in a spot with no Middleton.
Yeah, and that's where I play Delon Wright for 3,400. And I'm probably not going to be as high on Gabe Vincent. Greg, this is what I've been trying to do on these shows the last couple times where we've done these, where you find these super cheap guys and you have access to get to Giannis, where it's like, we're eventually going to see Giannis go for over 70, and you were going to need cheap guys in your lineup. And that's how a guy like Gabe Vincent works out. That's how a guy like, by the way, damn to whoever super chatted about John Conchar yesterday. F that guy. What
you were watching?
No, I watched for 2 minutes. I was on the golf course because I was like, oh, well, I'll build a couple lineups. I'll see how everybody's doing. If there's any, when you log on, it's not going to be anything nice that's said about you, but literally log on. And as I'm waiting on a tee box, and 30 seconds later, this guy super chats, Eric would have recommended John Conchar today. Hurdy, her. And I was like, boom, upset.
There was a couple
not the double bird like Josh, but just upset.
There was multiple people that asked the super chat, so wanted to play John Conchar yesterday. For whatever reason, John Conchar was in the air.
Yeah. Gabe Vincent at least made sense. He's played 24, 25 minutes. However, I do think there's no chance he plays an entire fourth quarter in a competitive game. So if this game's going to be more competitive, I do project him around 18 minutes. I think when he was at home there, you saw him close out both fourth quarters of game 1 and 2. I don't think that that's going to be the norm. So 17, 18 minutes for him. He's a guy I have a couple shares of, like we're talking 4%, but I'm not nearly as high on him as what I was in some of those home games. Jose Alvarado, though, I don't know. Something tells me that we might be onto something defensively here against Chris Paul. 14, 17 minutes. He's been active on the floor. I'm not saying that I'm going out of my way to roster a ton of him, but Delon Wright at 3,400 is the guy and the priority that I want to get to in terms of the cheap end. He's $600 less, allows for me to get to all of those studs we were talking about. He's played 21 to 29 minutes. I don't think I'm going to project him for anything north of that. But even at 22, 23 minutes, I think he's a serviceable option. I hate that he's super popular, but is there anybody sub 4K, sub your boy Pat Connaughton today that you're landing on at guard?
Delon Wright's in my player pool for the same reasons you mentioned. He played 28 minutes last game. If he plays 28 minutes again, he's fairly likely to land in an optimal lineup once again, because we don't have that many cheap guys to play and we have a lot of expensive guys to get to. So he makes sense. Are you going to get back to Gabe Vincent at all? Because he is somebody who has played 26 and 25 minutes in the last couple of games. You were ahead of the Gabe Vincent train. He is not projected for much ownership, and I don't think he's a bad contrarian option considering the amount of playing time we've seen him get in the last couple of games.
Yeah, I just talked about him quite a bit there. He was kind of included in everything we were talking about. I know for a fact that he's just, it's not as good of a situation because he's closed the fourth quarter both times. They've been up double digits and they just kept him on the floor, but he's definitely playing more minutes than people expect. So he goes into that bucket of guys where even at 18, 20 minutes, if you're trying to get different, if you're trying to get away, Pat Connaughton doesn't feel like the guy I'm scared of fading as much today. Maybe that's just me being stupid, but it wouldn't be the first time. I'm okay. I'm okay just trying to be lighter on this super chalky option and scattering the rest of the board. Wesley Matthews, Grayson Allen, I think can both play a lot of minutes. I still expect Wesley Matthews to start alongside Connaughton. We'll see what that starting unit ends up being. There's a lot of things that can kind of shake it up here, but Javon Carter as well can play more minutes if need be. He's only projected for around 12 here at Awesemo. Not an intriguing fantasy option, but can take away enough from Connaughton to make me kind of keep him realistic. I'm going to have less than 10% of him. I'm just saying on DK, I'm finding other ways to get different. Anything else at guard you want to talk about at all?
Let's see, other guard guys that are actually going to be priorities for me. We mentioned Zach LaVine in passing. Just all of these Bulls guys, particularly on DK, are really underpriced. I think we should talk about the FanDuel guards as well. For the most part, it's a lot of the same guys. However, we talked about Trae Young before and how you didn't really find him to be a priority on DraftKings. FanDuel, where he's only 9,000, I find it to be totally different. So Trae Young, when he's 9K, that to me is a pretty strong option to get to a point guard, especially when some of the other guys are well, also there's less point guard options just in general on FanDuel. The players that are, I think, reasonable, Chris Paul is 10,200. That is such an expensive price tag that it's hard for me to prioritize him there. So he kind of falls a little bit more by the wayside over on FanDuel. Then you've got Caruso, Holiday, McCollum. I have less interest in Delon Wright and Gabe Vincent on FanDuel relative to DK. So the point guard pool on FanDuel is much thinner, and that makes Trae Young stand out a lot more where he's cheaper.
Are you playing any Cameron Payne on FanDuel where he's 4,400?
Let's see. My build, less than 10%.
Okay, I have 22, and it's a guy that's hard for me to figure out. If Chris Paul were out, Cameron Payne would be the absolute nuts. It's Devin Booker, and maybe just because, but him and Chris Paul have shared the floor a number of times together and been pretty effective. I don't know. If something tells me we're all sleeping on Cameron Payne, I'm more capable of rostering him at 4,400 over on FanDuel as opposed to 4,500 over on DK. But I want to at least say his name and put it out there because I feel like he's the one guy from Phoenix that's just completely being slept on, where he could be the guy who gets put into a larger role absent Devin Booker, and it would not surprise me.
Well, it could, but like you said, it would be a much bigger deal for Cam Payne had Chris Paul been out. What is your minutes expectation for Payne? Because I still haven't projected for under 20. Yeah,
20 is the number on literally 20 minutes. But if he's out there playing well, he's a fantasy point per minute guy. And that's the way that I always view him. 1.03 FanDuel points per minute on the season under all circumstances. You take away Booker and they're going to need some extra firepower. Cameron Johnson is going to be a guy I know put into a different role. We'll talk about him and all of these other guys from the Suns at the forward position. But Cameron Payne, they're talking about Landry Shamet. They're talking about these other guys. Cameron Payne's the guy that can actually get things done in terms of a ceiling. And so I'm always interested in guys like that when they're going underappreciated.
Yeah, when I look at Cam Payne, once again, though, it's just the way the pricing works on FanDuel. It's so much softer that I don't think it's necessary. He could go out and score 25 fantasy points, maybe even 30, and probably wouldn't be optimal at his price point, just because there's so many other guys on FanDuel that look good on a points per dollar basis. Like, you play Alex Caruso for only a minimal amount of more salary. Then you've also got guys like Delon Wright on FanDuel is right around there, who I think also projects kind of similarly. That something else that hurts campaign a little bit on FanDuel is it's really just the 4,400 price tag. Actually, I was going to say, I thought that he only had point guard eligibility, but he's point guard and shooting guard. I thought that was limiting somewhat the amount that he gets into my lineups, but it's really just that I don't have him projected as well as some of the guys around him.
I get that. And Jose Alvarado's 3,700. Yes, I do have some exposure to him at that number on FanDuel, although guards are pretty cheap to come by, except for Chris Paul at 10-2. They preemptively priced him up. Well done by FanDuel. Also well done by our team here at Awesemo. They have the best tools and content in the industry. $29.95 right now for the weekly pass. We have some free premium tools for you to check out right now. NBA ownership rankings, NHL player rankings, MLB player rankings, and UFC pro plays for tomorrow. I know Greg will be in those streets. Maybe I'll get some tips after the show here, but you want to be checking out everything we have behind the paywall. $29.95 to do that. And then if you want to just check out NBA, which is still going here, obviously, playoff time, $4.95 for the weekly pass. Stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo Plus today. All right, my friend, let's jump over to the forward spot. To the top end we go. And Giannis, you kind of set the table there. No Chris Middleton. You lose one of the big guys. Well, it might as well be the guy who averages nearly 1.8 fantasy points per minute on the season. That's Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's the best play of the slate. How much are you getting to him on both sites today?
Yeah, he's in nearly all my lineups, not 100%, but not too far off of that. There is no Chris Middleton. And also, the series is tied 1-1. The Bulls winning last game in Milwaukee. Milwaukee lost home court advantage, and I think a lot of people would be surprised now at how tightly lined this series is at sportsbooks. We're only looking at the Bucks, depending where you look, somewhere around a minus 250 favorite. The Bulls are very live to win this series now that Chris Middleton's out. So there's more extra usage going to Giannis. It stands to reason there's more playing time going to Giannis. And just a reasonable price tag, 11,200 over on FanDuel. I mean, on DK. On FanDuel, he's priced at 12,000, which is still a pretty reasonable price tag. Number one, considering how soft the pricing is on FanDuel, but then also considering that he's got no Middleton there. Like, I think a reasonable salary for Giannis in this spot is probably closer to 13K. So yeah, he's my most rostered player as high priority as it gets.
Yeah, he's a very, very high priority. But the rest of the position is where I really think this slate is going to come down to, because there's a lot of pieces of value and there's also a lot of spend ups. Brandon Ingram, Jimmy Butler, who are going really underappreciated on a site like DraftKings because of how big of a priority Giannis is and how much of a highlighter you need to have around him. And that's where DeMar DeRozan really has a lot of utility for me, even though he ends up being pretty popular, 30.4%. I just like this game environment. As you said, Milwaukee, Chicago, 220.5 total in this one, slightly better, 222 total, I guess, in Atlanta, Miami. But we know the defensive prowess that can exist. And I think Atlanta playing just a lot of guys, it's more difficult to figure out what's going on there. Chicago feels pretty straightforward for me. So I'm more likely to fall on DeMar DeRozan. If you don't roster Giannis as an expensive forward option, who is your next favorite guy to get to?
I mean, he's in such a tier of his own, but I mean, DeRozan by default, because I mean, we look at pay up options at the forward position today. There's Giannis, there's DeRozan. Well, I guess Jimmy Butler could be in that mix too. Ingram's too expensive for me at this point, and I know he was really good last game, but this is going to be a Suns team now without Devin Booker. I think probably plays a little bit slower of a pace. Also, it stands to reason they're going to be a better defensive team without Devin Booker, even if the offense takes a little bit of a step back. So Ingram isn't really a high consideration for me, particularly on DraftKings. I prefer DeRozan to Butler, but it's Giannis is number one, and then it's a really big drop off in terms of my exposure.
All right, super chat season. Before we get to the value forwards, and my God, do we have a lot of them? William Fields, $5. Sup, fellas? Let's talk hoop. Let's talk that. That seems like a good idea. That's kind of what we're doing. Suns move McCall to the 2. Cam Johnson starts 3 with Crowder. They won't play Payne and Paul together much. Thoughts? I think they play Paul and Payne together a little bit more than you think. Not going to be like a 1v1. I'm still of the belief that they can play quite a bit more together than what other people do, but it won't be some crazy allotment. I mean, maybe 6-8 minutes tops.
Yeah, I mean, I only have Payne projected for 18 minutes. So unless the starting lineup is different than what I think it is, I mean, I think it's going to be Paul, Shamet, Bridges, Crowder, Ayton.
Daryl Canty, $2. Can we play Paul and Payne together on DK? I probably would not. 4,500 for Payne. I'm finding him more. There's more utility for him on FanDuel where he has shooting guard eligibility and he's 4,400. That's why I talked about him a little bit specifically there. But on DK, would you play them together?
I wouldn't make a rule against it, but I don't think I have any lineups with them together. Not intentionally, but I'm just not all that high on Campaign. He's a lower priority play for me. There's other values I prefer.
Weatherman 7 there. Normally it's a pair dancing or doing something. We have a video game controller that's laughing and calling people a noob. Cool. I like it.
Yep, that is a sticker, as I have learned. That's a sticker.
William Fields, $2. What's the usage on Cam without Booker? Well, fortunately, there's places you could do things like that. All you have to do is you have to take players off a floor. You take Devin Booker off a floor. You wait for it to refresh, and we get usage rate for our young man Cameron Johnson of 18.6%. What?
Did he ask for Payne or Johnson?
Yes. What's the usage on Cam without Booker? And without Booker, the usage is 18. Where did it just go?
No, but I'm saying, is he asking about Cam Payne or Cam Johnson?
Oh, that's a great question.
I mean, we might as well give them both. Why not? We'll give them
18.6%. And then for Campaign in the membrane, 26.4% leads the entire team with Devin Booker off the floor.
Yeah, so there you go. You got Cam Johnson and Campaign, 2 for 1. Don't know which one you were talking about, but it's okay. We got you covered.
We got him, both of them. $1 for each guy. So there you are, letting it be known. All right, to the forward spot. My God, this is where a lot of slates are going to be won and lost. Kind of alluded to it earlier. We have so many mid-tier
we missed some of the
places.
super chats, by the way.
Did we really? Where?
Yeah, I think some of them have, because I think some of them came at the top of the show, so they kind of scrolled past. But the good news is I remember them. One was somebody was just giving us a thanks. He said he won some money moving off of Tyus Jones yesterday. So he was thanking us. And then another one was from Michael McKinney. He's
the $2 FD one.
His usual FanDuel question.
Yeah,
But we didn't answer it.
Devon B send us $2 super chat, $150 moving off of Tyus Jones. Thank you. No, thank you for tuning in. Again, I try to time this out to get to all the information, and then we can hammer some super chats as we go. But Michael McKinney, we know what to do, Greg. You got to give me your 2 favorite guys to spend up for and your 3 value plays. Go.
Yep. And this is for cash games over on FanDuel. One of them is super easy. This is as easy as it gets for me. Well, Jokic is always an easy one for me, but this is also super easy. Giannis is one of them. No doubt about it. As for the other pay up, this is where it kind of gets hard because I think there's a lot of guys that we could consider as really, really high priority pay up options, like Zach LaVine. If we want to consider him a pay up at 7,200, there's also Jrue Holiday at 8,000. So if we're talking about cash games, though, I think it has to be Holiday and Giannis as the 2 pay up options because of the absence of Chris Middleton. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And then as for value plays, one of them for me is Herbert Jones. I like Delon Wright a lot. I don't know for cash games on FanDuel, though.
He kind of accesses the entire board, but I don't think he's popular enough to really garner.
So
I wouldn't play him in cash.
It's Herbert Jones, Alex Caruso, John Collins. I'll give those as my 3 value plays for cash.
All right, I love it. Those are 3 plays that I'm for, and I didn't hear Pat Connaughton's name. That makes me happy, even though I think on FanDuel, it's one of those things where he's 4,400 and kind of fits into more lineups that I would want him to there. DK, I'm not going to have more than 10%. It's just not going to happen. At 4K, I think there's enough guys. Delon Wright, cheaper. You talked about, how about my boy Jackson Hayes at 3,300 at forward here? We'll get to that here in a second. I don't feel good about it, but he's 3,300 and there's something to be said about that. But this mid-range, my friend, Mikal Bridges is 6,200 on DK, John Collins, Bobby Portis, Bogdanovich, Herter, Jay Crowder, Danilo Gallinari. I have exposure to all of these guys. Who are you getting to the most out of the guys I just listed? Pretty much the entire 5K, 6K range on DK.
So 5K to 6K, let's see. 5K to 6K. Collins, number 1 for me. So last game, I feel, I don't know if you felt this way. I think we got a little lucky. because Collins played, I think, less minutes than both you and I expected. I didn't expect him to play under 30 in that spot. He came through for us in limited minutes, particularly at his price point.
We needed that rebound. We needed
he got
rebound. I know he did. I know we needed it.
Yeah, you texted me. You're like, can we get one more rebound for John Collins? And he did with like 30 seconds left in the game, which, there was an extra 2.75 DraftKings points, which helped him out. I mean, either way, he was going to be solid for his price, not quite spectacular. Either way, we escaped. He played 29 minutes, scored over 30 fantasy points at 5,900. I mean, at 5,100. Now he's 5,900. So the value is a little different looking with the price going up by $800. But at the same time, there are not forwards to really like in this salary range. So I kind of land on Collins by default, and I have to think he plays more than the 29 minutes last game. I didn't project him for the right amount of minutes last time out. He got the double-double. He kind of bailed us out at the end. But if we could get 32 minutes, 34 minutes out of John Collins, then we're back to the guy who was, 67, 6,900 just shortly before he got injured. So I'm going back to John Collins, not quite in the same way we did last time because it's different salary here, 5,900 as opposed to 51. But since you've asked me about guys in this price range, he's the only guy I really have a heavy amount of exposure or like any kind of legitimate exposure to.
Okay. Well, I'm having a tough time figuring out what I want to do with Danilo Gallinari, Kevin Huerter, Bogdanovich. I feel like one of them is going to be good. I want to just play Bogdanovich because he's the guy who hasn't had that massive. I mean, he played fantastic last time out, 40.5, but we're talking about a guy that is just 5,500, garnering a little bit of attention here, 24.6%. I find it hard to believe I wouldn't want to click on him more than Huerter at 19%, as much as I love that man. 4,800 for Danilo Gallinari, 14.5. I don't know what those minutes look like. And we just got the starting lineup: Young, Huerter, Hunter, Gallinari, Collins. So again, exact same thing. We're not looking at any kind of Bogdanovich or a Kongu or nothing weird happening there. No shakeups here. Entering game 3, they need to win. I feel like Bogdanovich feels like the most secure guy to take shots on in that range, but I wanted to get your thoughts about that mid-range. If you're just getting to Collins, that makes all the sense in the world. But Cameron Johnson at 4,700 is very popular. 35.7% rostership. I find him unavoidable good chalk. How about you?
So I think he's good chalk. I'd say slightly concerned about his playing time because I don't think he starts. Are you under the belief he's going to be starting today?
Yes. If he's not starting, I'm probably hitting eject on a lot of things.
Okay. I feel pretty good that Landry Shamet is going to start. So we'll see. I still think Cam Johnson is a good play to get to on the slate, but I probably have a little bit less exposure to him than you do. I'm around even with the field on DraftKings. FanDuel, I find him a little more difficult to get to if I don't think he starts because he's 5,100. But for DK purposes, the 3-point bonus, the scoring is a little more favorable to Cam Johnson on DK than it is on FanDuel. He's in about a third of my lineups right now. And once again, I do not think he's going to start. I think they start Landry Shamet. If Cam Johnson ends up starting, I'll have to reallocate the minutes for Phoenix.
Okay. Yeah. He's had some random spot starts. This comes down to, they said that he's going to have to be more of the guy going forward. He had 3 random starts in the month of April here. He had a string of starts at the beginning of March, but a lot of guys were out, including Cam Johnson. So I don't know what to make of all of it. I could definitely see it going either way. But Landry Shamet, I don't have as much interest starting as what I would. He's 3,800. It'd be all right. But Cam Johnson, I think, has the more meaningful fantasy impact, and at least the guy who can go out and chuck. Not that Shamet is a bad shooter. He's definitely decent enough, but I'm okay getting to whichever one starts. That's probably the right way to look at it. But cheapies here, we've got Herbert Jones. We've got Grayson Allen. I doubt he starts, but maybe see some more minutes allotment. I'm not sure what to make of 4,500 and under on DK and FanDuel. Who are your favorite cheapies at forward to land on?
So forwards in terms of cheap, what salary would you say we're going to consider cheap here?
I don't know, but somebody just said that my shirt made somebody bet another unit. Well, this is presented by OddsShopper, but Prize Picks, we have a parlay builder over on OddsShopper, and this is a very comfortable t-shirt. So I must say, thank you to them.
Give me a price range that we're going to call cheap.
4,500 and under. Or do you want to just say sub 5K because we talked about Cam Johnson already? I'll open up the whole board. 5K and under on both sites.
Herb Jones is my favorite. So Herb Jones, I have zero doubts about his playing time. And I don't understand why Cam Johnson is picking up twice the ownership of Herbert Jones. It makes no sense to me. Last game, Herbert Jones, and we know Herbert Jones is starting. He played 41 minutes last game. We're going back and forth about we don't know if Cam Johnson's going to start. We don't know exactly what his minutes are going to look like. Herbert Jones is almost certainly playing more minutes than Cam Johnson. And I think just because he isn't a guy who's directly benefiting from an injury, it causes the field to not quite get there. And it's, he's 20% owned. So it's not like he's a complete contrarian play, but I haven't projected for more fantasy points than Cam Johnson, and he's less popular and he's less expensive. So that's a pivot I like a lot.
I don't hate it at all. I mean, I'm playing both, but 60% Herb Jones on FanDuel fits in a lot of lineups. Defensive stats, that is going to be an all right thing to get to. Anything else?
Sorry, one more thing to add also, because people are talking in chat about how he's not a good fantasy producer. He's not a good fantasy producer points per minute. When it doesn't matter? When you play 41 minutes. That you could be a bad fantasy producer and play 41 minutes, and that's gonna cover up a lot of that.
3,300 Jackson Hayes. Are you going to play as much as me? Because I don't feel great about it, but I have to click the button a lot.
He's in 20% of my lineups right now.
Oh, look at that. Okay. Riddle me this, Batman. You like him a little bit. That's good.
He's cheap. He enables me to pay up for other guys. I feel
exactly
about him how I felt about like Gary Payton yesterday. I don't have a crazy amount of exposure or anything like that, but I'm overweight to the field, and he enables me to pay up for the pay up options that I really like to get to.
All right. Well, at least we're on board with that one to kind of round out the entire position. Trey Murphy Jr., he's playing more minutes than you would expect, played pretty well offensively. He can be all right to punt to, but not any kind of a priority. What is a priority is heading over to oddshopper.com. They are the presenting sponsor here of the Live Before Lock show. We've got a lot of cool stuff going on with OddsShopper. It's part of what we do here. And it's not just that it gives you the best plays every single day in the NBA, but it has MLB bets coming soon, NHL bets, golf bets is in beta. We have parlay builders for, prizepicks.com. We have so many great tools to help you make money in so many other sports than just your NBA that you know and love. But looking at the NBA tools, we have best projected ROI, best projected win percentage. That'll help you on sites like PrizePicks, sites like Underdog, sites like anywhere where you can play props in states that maybe don't have legalized betting. And then the ones that do, it gives you the direct sports book, where you should go, where you should be shopping for those lines and betting them, getting access to them. Looks like Chris Paul, 3-pointers, taking the under on 1.5 when it's plus 150 stands out. Now, 59% of the time, we're saying 41% of the time, Chris Paul is going to make 2 3-pointers or more. Okay, that's fine. But here's the thing. 1.5 plus 150 is a gigantic piece of value to add to your card. Chris Paul under on 3-pointers. I'm all right with that. Mid-range specialist. I think that's a great kind of starting point here. Greg, is there anything on OddsShopper that sticks out to you for tonight's NBA slate?
Let's see. For tonight, I have Chris Paul projected for a little over 1.5 threes, so that's when I'd probably stay away from. I just think the ball is going to be in his hands a lot more with the absence of Devin Booker. It is plus money on the under, so maybe that's something that influences a little bit. Loughran and Adam Scherer is projected not projected, but he has a very high rebound prop at 8.5, which I think is really inflated by what happened in the play-in game, where ultimately we saw New Orleans just decided to sit Jonas Valanciunas. They went with Larry Nance in that game. But if you look at his playing time in this series, game 1 against Phoenix, 19.5 minutes, game 2, 21 minutes. You just can't expect him to have 9 or more rebounds when he's playing that kind of more limited minutes. It's different if we're getting 26 to 20 minutes or whatever out of Larry Nance, but not in these minutes. Overall, during his time with New Orleans, he has 1 game where he's had over 8.5 rebounds, and it was that play-in game. So I feel good about the under on the rebounds for Larry Nance.
All right. Well, yeah, and I feel good about the under on points. I feel good about shorting him in just about any way possible because, yes, they win small, but guess what?
Oh, sorry. By the way, I misquoted. 5.5 rebounds, 8.5 points. I like the unders on both of them.
Yeah, me too. I knew what you meant. And I think chat knew what you meant. They're going to be so nice and understanding for Greg whenever he slips up and says something. Always. Every single time. That's the way of the world. But yes, we thank you so much to OddsShopper. It's fantastic to be able to talk about the products here. Projections put on the screen from the best guys in the industry. That's Alex Baker. We've got Steve Buzzard, Eddie Lai, I swear to God, this guy is just binking everywhere. I see him at the top of MLB leaderboards now too. Save some for the rest of us, my friend, but appreciate everything that you're putting together because sports betting, it's a team effort. We appreciate you guys. All right, my friend, let's go to center. We will have some time for questions. Let me double check. I've got some super chats. We've got a couple to catch up on. Cody Haney.
We have some questions in the Discord chat too.
All right, we'll get to that. $1 from Cody Haney. Appreciate you. And then he followed up with a $5 super chat. Thank you for both of those things. Can only afford 2 of the Vols. DeRozan, Vooch, Levine. Leaning Vooch, DeRozan. Thoughts for a DK tournament?
All right. So the 2 I have the most exposure to are Levine and Vooch. So that will be my answer.
All right. And yes, Vooch is, I love it, center. Marcus Young, Crowder or Gallinari today?
That's probably neither for me. Let's see, which do I have more exposure to? I don't have either of them as a priority play. I have a little more exposure to Herter, but these are both under 10% guys for me.
Crowder or Gallinari?
Oh, sorry, Crowder. Same. It's really neither. Like, I don't think that's a decision. It's not a decision point for me on this slate.
I like Crowder
did he say whether it's FanDuel or DraftKings?
No, it just said Crowder or Gallinari.
All right. If Crowder's viable on FanDuel, I don't really like either on DraftKings.
Yeah, FanDuel, I find him pretty necessary at 4,300 to play as much Giannis as I want to. So
yeah. So I'm going to assume it's a FanDuel question and say Crowder.
Okay, cool. That's a good way to do it here. Let's head on over to that aforementioned premium Discord here. I'm jumping on in. Again, this is the easiest way for you guys to get your questions asked. People are in YouTube chat worried, oh, they're not going to answer my questions. Well, we will definitely answer them when they're in the premium NBA spot. Here we go. Gallinari or Crowder, DK small field. We just answered that one. Hopefully that helps. DK, I guess that is a different question. Gallinari or Crowder for DK?
Neither.
Okay, good talk. Glad we had it. Favorite shooting guard, 4K and below on FD from Supak Goop?
Favorite shooting guard, 4K and below. All right, so 4K and below. Does Delon? Yeah, Delon Wright has Wright has shooting guard eligibility, so he's the one I have the most exposure to under 4K.
All right, so we got that one. One last one to throw out there. I think it might have been from a little bit earlier. I don't think it got answered on the last show, but I doubt it. On DK today, max 4 of everybody, considering the Bucks and Suns value. Are you getting to any lineups with more than 4 of anybody? That would seem like an unlikely scenario, but at least something worth asking.
No, I don't.
Yeah, that would be craziness. All right. We got those.
One
more just came in. Trae Young, Jackson Hayes, or McCollum, Cameron Johnson on DK Cash.
McCollum and Cameron Johnson.
McCollum and Cameron Johnson. Same here. All right. Luka Doncic questionable for Saturday. I bet he plays. That's just kind of the way that seems to be trending, but we shall see. Let's talk ourselves some centers. 11 minutes here before lock. Generally, we've kind of been very short on time getting to this portion of the program, but Nikola Vucevic, pretty much confirmed fantastic play. I don't know why his price isn't going up more on every side here. 7,700. He's one of my favorite plays to get up to, period. End of story on this entire slate. Is he one of yours too?
You said Vucevic, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, without a doubt. We mentioned it at the very top of the show for people who weren't tuned in at the top. But when Eric and I were kind of introing the slate, with the absence of Middleton, we've got Giannis looks like a really strong play. Drew Holiday looks like a really strong play. And then on DK particularly, the Bulls guys have just been underpriced for this entire series. So DeRozan looks pretty good. Vooch looks pretty good. Levine looks pretty good. And I just think this is a game that absolutely makes sense to load up on DraftKings. I'm going to be rooting for overtime in this spot, and I don't see a way around it. All of the players in Bulls box, almost on both sides of the game, are good options.
Yeah, it's hard to say that I don't like one. What was the priority for the 3 Bulls, the big 3 Bulls that we talked about earlier?
Vooch and Levine for me.
Vooch and Levine. Okay. So Vooch more than Levine?
I have them very similar.
Okay.
I have a little more exposure to Levine, but it's splitting hairs. I have like one more lineup with Levine than Vooch on DK. Over on FanDuel, it is Levine and DeRozan though, just because of the center position thing.
I have asked 3 times now for MLB. NBA season is in playoffs. MLB season is in full swing. Let's go. We're aware. Greg and I did a baseball show. If you guys want to check in, tune into it. Obviously, we can't do go Tigers because Rockies and Tigers got canceled. That was sad.
Should we just ditch our NBA? Should we ditch our most popular show on the entire channel to appease Bill Wallace?
Obviously, just one person. That's what it is. Play Verlander. Play Kopech. Play Who's the other guy? Michael.
The other thing, Bill, there was a baseball show on the one Eric and I did this morning, but then also there was a baseball show, the MLB show, which was 2 hours ago. You just go to the YouTube channel, click on the MLB playlist, and you could watch the MLB show.
Yeah, this is an NBA show, Bill. Go away. Don't go
we
away.
We have baseball
appreciate
shows
you.
too.
Just hit the like button. We have lots of baseball shows, though. Trust me, Greg and I are going to have you covered. We're going nowhere because we're bad boys for life. We ain't going nowhere. Tyler didn't like
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Eric, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. That was more of the shit category. That's fine. Rest of the centers to talk about. We should probably keep going and not kind of entertain that. John Collins, you can play him at the center position. We both like him. We talked about him. Bam Adebayo, though, he's good to go. Kind of. He's 7K. He's been very disappointing in this series. How do you feel about Bam Adebayo now down to 7K, where you can play two centers on DraftKings?
Yeah, well, one thing is he's hurt, so we have a reason for what the limited production is. He has a quad injury. They had listed him as questionable ahead of last game. He ended up playing through it. He only played 24 minutes, and there's a lot of volatility here because I don't think he's healthy. But there's a clear upside here, so I think he's a good tournament option. Can't trust him in cash games, but if you're just hunting for ceiling. It's pretty clear that Bam Adebayo at a 7,000 price tag, and by the way, even 7,300 on FanDuel, where he's eligibility in multiple positions, there's a ceiling here. So you should have. Yeah.
Hold up. Look at what just came in for news.
Heat Hawks likely to be delayed Friday after a suspicious package was reportedly found outside the State Farm Arena. God, what did Amber Heard send there now?
Emotional damage.
Yeah, it's Johnny Depp, that's for sure. My God, we don't think this is like a cancellation risk, do we?
I don't know. Well, I'm not with the DEA. I'm not with the bomb detection service. I'm not with the FBI.
Part of the Bomba Squad, Minnesota Twins, circa 2019. What up?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've no clue. What this could. I mean, we have to look for more information now, but I doubt it. This can't be something that matters that much.
Well, all I know is that my brain goes to all of the scenarios. You had the water on the floor in Brooklyn. You had water on the floor in New Orleans. You've had so many issues happen for different things, likely to be delayed. So just delayed, right? This isn't like.
Yeah, just delayed. It looks like there's some.
They didn't evacuate the stadium, did they?
No, it looks like they found one of Eric's jokes in a container, and now they had to evacuate the stadium.
Why does Tyler have all these fucking sound alerts like on command, ready to go to troll me?
Oh, I got him dialed up.
I can't imagine that there's any risk of this game actually being canceled. Just roll with it as is.
Are you playing any Dwayne Dedman or Kongwu or Brooke Lopez, any cheapy center for you? Go ahead and talk. I hate you.
For cheap guys, I've got a little bit. Let's see. I've under 10% Dedman, but he's in my player pool. I mean, it's limited minutes for him, but he's a good enough fantasy producer. I think there's a path where Dedman plays like 14 minutes and scores 18 fantasy points. It could end up being optimal. We talked about Jackson Hayes before, and he is power forward and center eligibility on DK. I think that he is somebody that could potentially be viable, but outside of that, not really. And even Dedman, I mean, that's 5% of my lineups.
5 minutes to go. You want to recap the slate for me, you nice individual?
Well, we didn't really talk much about FanDuel, so I think we should go position by position and just kind of hit on.
Sure, what a great idea!
We have the most.
What a great idea! Yeah, why don't you do that? I'll just sit here. It's fine. Go ahead.
All right.
Favorite point guards to get to. Go ahead. I'll do DK while we're doing it just for the hell of it. Drew
do you
Holiday.
have your lineups uploaded, by the way?
Yeah, I do. Leave me alone.
Did y'all see Nelson Resto's super chat, by the way? He sent it a few minutes
Nelson
ago.
Resto. Oh, I must get it. Then I'm out of my funk there. Nelson Resto. Gabe Vincent, good pivot from right. Talked about him at the top of the show. Gabe Vincent was my guy that I pivoted on to a lot in game 2. Felt pretty good about that play, got the minutes I was looking for. But the major concern is I don't expect them to be up by 10 or 15 every single game of this series. If they are, maybe he closes that every fourth quarter. But he's played the entire fourth quarter of back-to-back games. I don't think that's likely in a competitive spot. That means his 24 minutes he's played the last two, I've turned into 18 minutes. I think that's about the right projection, but he's cheap. He's going to be on the floor at 3,600. I'm okay with.
Yeah, we talked about him at the top show of bring guards. I'm overweight to him, and once again, that's somebody that Eric was on a little bit before other people. I think what was his ownership in game one? Do you remember?
2%.
2%. Yeah, and that was somebody who I certainly wouldn't have played if you hadn't have brought him up. I mean, and still there. I'm kind of surprised the field hasn't gotten there at this point because the minutes have been there. Game one, 25 minutes. Game two, 26 minutes.
I'm just saying, Greg, I might be good at my job sometimes, okay? Even though you trash me and make fun of me, make me sad. It's fine.
Well, it's necessary sometimes, especially when we're trying to figure out what's going on with, because how else do we fill the air when we're trying to figure out why there's a bomb threat in one of the buildings, apparently?
Well, I mean, I was just doing my job. I interrupted you to bring that news forward just in case there was any kind of like a cancellation risk, or to be able to kind of react to it live as we're going, but also emotional damage. That's me. Just damage. As per usual. Anyway, Gabe Vincent, yeah, I think he's a good tournament play, and yeah. I'm surprised that because Eric was ahead of the field on everybody on this, but nobody else has caught up ever. People are still just not playing him. So I do like getting to him in tournaments. As for most roster guys position by position over on FanDuel, point guard, Holiday and Caruso, shooting guard, also Caruso, Holiday there, Levine, CJ McCollum, small forward, Levine also there, DeRozan, well, and then it's a bunch of guys, but Jimmy Butler, power forward, I like Herbert Jones, John Collins, center, John Collins also center eligible, and then it's Vooch, Adebayo, Ayton. I think there's a lot of guys that warrant center consideration of FanDuel, but there's not one I look at as like being the guy. Look at that. What a lovely recap. We can all just go home now. I got all my lineups uploaded. I had to get one more run in. Cool. That was fantastic. 1 minute to go here before lock. Chalk Caruso never good. Chalk Caruso never feels good. I can tell you that much, especially now that he's 5K and I'm still, just feel like I have to click his name more than I want to, especially Connaughton I'm trying to get lower on, but such is life. Let's do this. 1 minute to go here. No, we've got 30 minutes to talk Odd Shopper at the end of the show. Also, we have an NBA Live Before Lock offer going, so you don't want to go anywhere. I think Lofty might have alluded to it on the last show, but we're going to be bringing that up again here in a short while here. What are you cheering for most, Greg, here tonight? You said Herbert Jones, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Drew Holiday, all those guys. Who are you cheering for and who are you cheering against so we know who to be rooting for in this first game?
Yeah, well, the first game is Miami-Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, then we're not rooting for anything except for we're rooting for that bomb to not to be anything. That's
exactly. We're rooting for the game to happen, first of all. But then second, overall for the slate, overtime in Miami, Chicago would be quite nice.
Yes, it would. Lindquist lives in the future. I do, E-Rush. I do. That's why I'm good at this. But I don't know. Bucks restructure Brady deal, frees up $9 million in cap. Good. The Bucks are going to get better. Best of luck, NFL, next year.
So the other thing, because I know it's the Adam Scherer tweet, is he also said that Tom Brady's still going to be a free agent at the end of the year. We're already talking about his free agency for next year. He just unretired, a month ago? He retired and unretired. Now we're talking about what he's going to do next year. Well, a few steps ahead. Yeah,
it's just the NFL just always is relevant, and that's what it comes down to. And I love the NFL. Well, I hate the NFL because I'm a Viking fan. So if you want to know why I almost cry on streams on the daily, it's because I'm a Vikings fan first, and I've just kind of been taught to be sad all the time. But the NFL is beautiful. It's great. And the Bucks are just going to be another juggernaut this season. So best of luck to the NFC, especially because the AFC is so stupid stacked that hard not to look at the NFC is pretty wide open. And if you give $9 million to give to not Antonio Brown, I can tell you that much, but somebody at the wide receiver position to bring in there, it's just going to be unfair in Tampa Bay. But yeah, dude, just unretired. Let's all pump the brakes. But let's not pump the brakes as we head to oddshopper.com.
Wait, sorry. This is going to be important. Hawks Heat will be delayed 30 minutes, so it's expected to start in 30 minutes from now.
So we're going to have nothing to react to live. throughout this entire show.
Well, who knows? Maybe we'll have a bomb reaction. So like maybe somebody will stream that and we could watch that.
It's dark, very dark. Don't say that.
No. That's not dark. It's just one of those you never, like when they do the overheads of the thing and they've got the people going in and out and searching for it or whatever. I'm sure there's some video cam of it online. It's really not dark. It's like police chases. You see that online all the time.
I do. They're fantastic. I live in LA. We watch those all the time. That's like it's like a way of life out here in LA.
Yeah, you're good friends with Wob. I assume he's still. I don't know because I haven't blocked on Twitter, but I assume that. But I assume he still tweets.
That's nice. Yeah. I've met Wob more in real life than I've met you. That's for sure.
That's true.
Hung out with him socially in the world, but yeah, he's a good person. Come on now. Come on.
I don't know. I've never met him before. I just think he's annoying online.
I don't. I like you, Wob. You're good.
He's
people,
not watching.
Friend. I know he's not, but just protecting myself in the world. This is a guy that I set up on a blind date with one of my friends. It's just what it is. These are fun facts. Fun facts. Not as fun, though, as going to oddshopper.com and winning money. Let's talk some of the bets that we have going here. We talked about Larry Nance unders. We talked about Chris Paul. Again, you think that's about an efficient line. I think that I can kind of live with staying away from that one. In hindsight, I'm definitely not going to be taking the over on a 1.5 line when it's 1.4 projected when I'm playing over on Prize Picks, which again, is where I play the most prop action because of California. You got to be able to do that over here. Here, they're an underdog, of course, but is there anything else that I can add to my Prize Picks card for today, Greg?
Potentially, we could pull up Prize Picks right now.
Let's do it.
It wasn't something I pulled up before, but we can pull it up right now.
Look at that.
All right, Prize Picks.
Because the fantasy scores have been very, very, very soft. Like right off the bat, DeAndre Hunter, 20 fantasy points seems a little low to me.
Hunter fantasy points. Sorry, I'm pulling it up right now.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah. So Hunter's fantasy points, you said at 20. I have a lean towards the over on that. I have no issue with that whatsoever. What are some of the other fantasy points? I agree with you. These are ones that we've definitely seen be soft. Oh, I think a lot of the guys in this game have kind of low numbers. 42 for Jimmy Butler. I know. And so one thing I've noticed also looking at this, the start times for the Heat players, it has them locking in 5 minutes. But the Hawks players, it says 10 p.m. Eastern time lock. So I assume the Heat players are going to get moved back soon as well.
Correct. I would assume as well, because there's no way that game's starting in time here. 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Yeah, it's going to have to move back. They just need to update that. But maybe they just lock it up and you can't do anything about it from that point on. Oh, my Lord. This is uncomfortable. My next guy that I'm looking at here, again, these fantasy point lines have just been so soft. There's an Onyeka Okongwu who has a 12 fantasy score projection. Now, I don't want to play Okongwu, but we're talking about 12 fantasy points. I haven't projected for 19. How do I get away from playing that now?
You don't. You play it. That's how you do it.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, Cameron Payne's at 15. How do I not look at that?
I don't have him that much different than that, to be honest.
Yeah, Okongwu is the one that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, so I mean, I was paying a little bit over 15. I just really don't know that we got the official Heat Hawks expected to start at 7:45. Yep. So it won't matter for us in terms of doing the show, but it's going to be a game that is going to start at least at some point today. Have the lock times changed on DraftKings and FanDuel? I didn't open up the contest to chat.
No. Yeah, so they have. They have. Yeah, yep. Nope, they've locked.
So we can check ownership then.
We can. Let's do that.
I'm pulling
it up here. Hey, how about Joaquin Neiman and the Chileans in the Zurich Classic just screwing everything up? Ah, so sad. So sad.
Is that no good?
Yeah, it's always. So it's sometimes maybe I don't know what I'm trying to say. Also, that buzzed. What the hell was that?
I don't know. It must have been something because. So you said there was a buzz. There wasn't a buzz, except your audio kind of glitched a little bit. So whatever buzz you heard made your audio spaz.
Yeah, Mito Pereira withdrew. And so then as a result, Joaquin Neiman doesn't play golf today because you can't play alternate shot by yourself. Doesn't work. So that was a bummer.
I didn't know how this tournament works.
Did you play it?
Of course, but I just use the tools on our site. I don't know how any of this shit works. I'm just like, oh, cool. We have the boom bust tool and Fantasy Cruncher, so I'll build lineups. I've never really played DFS golf until this year, and I've done pretty well. I'm only playing low stakes because I don't know anything about it, but it's been going pretty well for me. But no, like the information you just told me is, I didn't know this was an alternate shot thing. I didn't know somebody withdrew. I didn't know any of that.
All right. Bogdanovich, 32.4% looks to be like the high guy that I'm looking at in this. As I'm clicking through names. Bam Adebayo, 12.3% at 7K. Oh boy, I wish I had more than that in the $20. John Collins, 40.1%. That's the biggest number I've seen to have found so far.
Dylan Wright,
30.8%. My lord.
Yeah, he's very popular.
Very popular, more popular than I was expecting even out of that. Not by much. I mean, he was 28% projected ownership. Our ownership, the best in the entire game.
Collins close to 40%.
Yeah. There's a couple. There's like Kyle Lowry, 10%. I would want more of that if I could go back in time. If I could put time in a bottle. First thing that I'd like.
Oh, that's actually, this is actually kind of something. I know that you didn't do this intentionally, but since we have the time here and we don't have the game to talk about because it isn't happening until 7:45, looking at the ownership right now, if you could change one player in your lineups and either give more or less exposure. Oh, here's what we'll do actually. One player you want more exposure to, one player you want less exposure to, given the information we now have.
Oh, I would want less Delon Wright for sure.
Yep.
With his 20.3% optimal percentage. In the boom bust tool, that would be the auto play underneath 30%. Said I liked him, but I liked him in moderation, and this is not moderation.
Yeah, he's very, very popular. So I am on the same page as you. I would probably have less Delon Wright. I'd have more Bam Adebayo because
sure.
Adebayo was projected he wasn't projected to be crazy popular or anything like that, but I felt like 25% projected ownership. It was like, all right. That's a decent enough number. I understand the upside at that price point. I understand some of the risks involved. Like, I just thought he was somebody to be somewhere around even with the field on. So I am overweight to Adebayo at this number, but I wish I had way more exposure now knowing that he's, sub 10%.
7K. It's just, because if he's good to go for 32, 34 minutes here, it's a smash. It's just an absolute smash. G-Sauce, any reason Pat Connaughton lines are not on any site? Can you guys explain, please? Yes, very quickly I can. They basically take a lot of the guys that they would assume have gigantic differences between starting and not starting, and they just take them off the board. Do you agree with that, Greg?
I'm
looking at a site that has him. I'm looking at
Connaughton.
I'm looking at a site that has props for him up, just not on Prize Picks.
Yeah, I'm just wondering who they is. Did he said, because they do.
Yeah,
any reason Pat Connaughton's lines are not on.
I'm looking
site.
at another one that's up. I'm just that would be the reason that he might not be up on a certain site, but I'm looking at sports books that have props with him up.
The actual reason is just because you missed him being listed.
Oh, okay. Call him out for that then.
It's the answer.
Okay. Well, I was being nice. I was saying that would be the reason is sometimes depends on where your sports book is. If it's based in Neverland, which, some sports books people still use, can be, very shady, different places, but they might not have Pat Connaughton listed because he's not one of the main pieces of Milwaukee, or because they think that there might be a huge disparity between him starting and not starting. I'm probably guessing that it's the same thing Greg just said and you missed it. But either way, best of luck tonight. Guys, Trent Forrest is out. I don't care. What is that going to do for tomorrow? Like, I don't care.
What do you make of the Joel Embiid injury?
I got to imagine a right thumb injury when you're a shooter isn't good.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem good. Also, what kind of makes me almost, and it was something Adam had responded to one of my tweets earlier. Almost, the Celtics are running too good right now. We've got Robert Williams coming back way earlier than expected from the injury. Robert Williams wasn't expected back until like the Eastern Conference Finals. Now all of a sudden he's going to be back in the mix. The Celtics assuming the Celtics get past the Nets, they're up 2-0 in the series. Obviously, nothing is a guarantee, but they're prohibitive favorites to win that series at this point. If they're to get past it and the Bucks get past the Bulls, which is still kind of up in the air. The Celtics are more likely to beat the Nets than the Bucks are to beat the Bulls. But let's say we get to a second round where the Celtics are going to be playing against the Bucks. It's going to be without Chris Middleton. And then we're going to get to the next round where it's either the Heat, who I think are at that point, they'll possibly be the easiest matchup the Celtics have had to this point in the series. Or if they play the 76ers, it would be against a less than full health Joel Embiid. Then you got Devin Booker on their side. The Celtics are running pure right now.
Yeah, it must be nice. Must be nice to be you and run Corbin Burns futures into Neverland. Like it's not even the Celtics running good. It's you running good at this point.
Well, some of it's different. Like there was egregious odds on Jokic to win MVP this year and last year. Same with Corbin Burns. That was really lucky though, also with DeGrom injury. But the Celtics were a team that were really undervalued this year. That people just Duke's here. So the Celtics at the start of the year were not great, and they got better as the season went on. It was new coach, new system. I think they had to adjust, but I think they might be the best team in the NBA right now. And I don't think that's really a hot take either. And they were 60-1 to win the championship, which it was just a really bad number.
Well, I brought it up before and I'm going to bring it up again. We have the awesemo.com/LBL offer. You guys need to check that out. Deeper dive. They plugged it. We're plugging it here again on Live Before Lock, but I'm telling you right now, some of these promotions that we have going with sportsbooks are too good to pass up. They're really, truly no-brainer offers. And LBL offer is the backslash you're going to put in conjunction with it. So it's awesemo.com/LBL offer. Do you guys want to take advantage of a great offer here over at BetMGM? I bet you do. If you're in a legal state, this is going to be something that can go a long way for you. So take advantage of that offer. We're going to be having those go throughout all of these Live Before Locks here over the course of the playoffs. Really cool offer. Jordan Frank popped that up for us today. So bet $10, win $200. I took advantage of that when I was in Arizona on, I believe it was like a Suns 3-point bet or something a month or two ago when I was out there. And it's as simple as that. You'll get four $50 bets to utilize on BetMGM. What could be better? It's pretty simple. It's kind of a no-brainer. $10. If you're going to be playing, a bunch of DFS lineups, just take $10, put it to the side, put it towards this promotion. And I promise you, you will be happy you did so, especially with Odd Shopper, especially with the tools we have here. So that's awesemo.com/LBL offer. Take advantage of it here. Doesn't get a whole lot easier. Let's jump back over to Odd Shopper as we're talking through it here. Talk through some of the bets that we liked here for today. Chris Paul unders. Again, I do not want to deal with an under of 20.5 on Chris Paul, who's going to be having the ball in his hands constantly. But is there anything else from this Pelicans game? Because again, it's the last one on the board. Pelicans, Suns, they've had the strangest type of rotations, I would say, with Larry Nance randomly playing a ton of minutes in a do or die game. They've had Jose Alvarado, who's kind of played fewer than 20 minutes now the last two. Herbert Jones, tons of opportunity there. Over 1.5 steals looks pretty good. But anything in that last game? Because I feel like from a sports betting perspective, we just kind of glanced on Chris Paul and Larry Nance. Anything else that you like for a bet in that game?
Let's see. And let's look for one BetMGM specifically, which
love it.
Which also, if you look on Odd Shopper, you could see the different books that the different bets are offered at. But I mean, we could rehash the ones we talked about before. I don't really have too much else to add, but we could just kind of recap that the Larry Nance, he is over under 8.5 points. That line actually, never mind. That line isn't at BetMGM. As I look through if you click on the player, if you go to Odd Shopper and you click on the player cards, you could see the different bets that are offered at different books. So there are no Larry Nance props there. Let's see. Jose Alvarado. What do you make of him over under half a 3-pointer at BetMGM?
I mean, it's got to be the under. That's a smash on the under. 64% expected win percentage. I believe too. If you want to talk about free bets of the day, we have some of the sharpest minds here in the DFS space. And right now, if you guys want to check out everything we have to offer over there, Awesemo Best Bets, I believe is the tag now we have for it. Awesemo Best Bets on Twitter. They will post the best prop of the day. I believe that is today's prop. It's not posted yet, but when it'll show up here eventually over there. You want to have your notifications turned on, get that free prop sent directly to your phone. I believe that is Alex Baker that has that one on the board here for today. So under 0.5, minus 105, kind of surprising to see that low of a number on it, because he's not going to be somebody out there chucking today.
Yeah, Alvarado. So 3-pointers. He has knocked down 3 in the first couple games of the series. But if you look at his numbers overall for the year, not really looking at a prolific 3-point shooter, average right around half a 3 per game. But then also keep in mind the Suns defense as elite as it gets. And in the closing time of the year, Alvarado, particularly after we saw the Pelicans trade for CJ McCollum, there's not as much usage available in the backcourt. So if you would take one side, under half a 3 for Alvarado, I think it's sensible.
Yep, I think it's pretty darn sensible too. That's why it's going to be Awesemo Best Bets. That's the play of the day. Check it out. So much good stuff we have going here on the Live Before Lock show. It's really enjoyable to see sportsbook promotions, DFS stuff, including Weatherman 7 with another super chat. This one doesn't have a sticker though. I'm kind of sad about that. I enjoy the stickers, but DeRozan and Hayes or Vooch and Nance DKGPP, I want nothing to do with Nance, so I've got to go DeRozan and Hayes. How about you, Greg?
DeRozan and Hayes. So of those players, Vooch is the one I have the most exposure to, but I don't have exposure to Nance, and I still do like DeRozan and Hayes. Hayes, super, super volatile play, but for, the, 10th time I brought this up, not just in this slate, but also for the playoffs, anybody that's cheap that I think has potential to play extended minutes, I want to get exposure to on these playoff slates, because that's just what enables me to pay up for the stars. And the stars become so much more important in these playoff series because, these are guys who go from playing mid 30s minutes to upwards of 40 plus minutes. And it's just really hard to avoid their kind of upside. So the potential downside of the cheap guys makes the upside of the high end guys worthwhile.
Agreed. Herbert Jones has a bad fantasy point per minute rate. Don't give a shit. He's going to play a ton, especially on FanDuel where you get those.
So here's something else I'll add about Herbert Jones. Let's say he's a 0.6 fantasy point per minute guy. Terrible, right? Just that would be miserable fantasy production. But if he plays the same 41 minutes he played last game at 0.6 fantasy points per minute, you're getting 25 fantasy points.
Yep. It's math. Hashtag math. But I know a lot of people in chat don't want to do math. They want to just say he sucks. He's bad, Greg.
So he's also not, he's not a great,
he's fantastic.
He's not a great DFS. I mean, he's not a great DFS player, but he's pretty damn good in real life.
He's so good at real basketball. I love this kid. He's really enjoyable to watch. It's fun to watch guys play really incredible defense in the playoffs, and he is one of them. Weatherman 7, $9.99. Now he sends the pear sticker that Greg loves so much with a bow, with a thank you. No, thank you, Weatherman 7. You're good people. Jordan L, yes, 41 minutes equals 25 fantasy points. Again, that's how math works.
That would be cool. And by the way, I mean, they're stealing for more than that, but if you scored 25 fantasy points, I wouldn't hate it.
All right. Well, we have 11 minutes to go left in this show. Okay, we have no basketball to react to, which is really kind of sad. I have to spend time. This is like we could put in time out with Tyler and Greg.
We could still sweat our lineups.
How so?
Yeah, we could be like the people that get upset when they play a bench player that doesn't have any fantasy points in the first. Why does Delon Wright not have any fantasy points yet? He wouldn't have had fantasy points at this point anyway because he was coming off the bench.
Hey, Greg, I'm in first in the NBA shoot around.
You know what's funny? If I haven't been on Twitter since the show started, I will guarantee you, if I go on Twitter right now, that'll be one of the first 5 tweets I see.
Yeah, it's somebody. Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy who. I can't.
Let's see. I'm going to scroll through.
I can tell you the Twitter personalities that I think are the most likely to do it to. We all know them. We all know exactly who would post stuff like that.
I haven't seen it yet, actually, but it's probably because it probably happened 20 minutes ago and not now.
It's so weird. Yeah, I'm going through Twitter. I don't see anything here specifically.
It's been said. It's been said. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, somebody don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. Squeak Diesel, 99 cents to say 100 in an emoji. That's not a sticker. That's just the emoji. 100. We appreciate you. Appreciate you very much. We're keeping it 100 over here. Click a ticket. Let's see a seatbelt fasten. Trunk rapid. No, we're not going to rap today. No rapping for me today.
Why not?
The whole room fell silent. Bono's all pause at me, turning left, turning right. Are they looking at me?
If there was ever, this would be the most time for you to rap.
Now they got it'll feel like a manhole, especially the big girls. Need love to. No discrimination here, squirrel. So keep your hands off my cheeks. Let me study how to ride the beach, you big freak. Skinny slim, got the chemical with them. Looking love them, hit them, bend them, give them something to remember. Yell out timber when you fall through the chop stop. Take a deep breath and exhale your expand friend born.
Regret that I enabled this.
Yep, you did. You said I could.
Yeah, I certainly did. But I was not incorrect to say that if there was
mic off halfway through that, so chat couldn't hear. Only you could hear.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, you're doing God's work.
Yeah,
I mean, God's work in the great state of Texas. We got Tyler Zander down there doing God's work.
That is by the way, that is the ability of the producer. The producer really is the god of the show, because at any point he could control us coming off air. By the way, this is funny. AP calling it a copyright infringement. Wouldn't that be funny if we had some point where Eric was singing a song and the YouTube algorithm picks it up as like, oh no, this sounds exactly like this song. Therefore, we have to give them a copyright strike.
We need Greg to sing before the end of the stream. We have 8 minutes to go. What song is Greg going to sing?
None of them.
At the end
None of them, because I wouldn't do that to anybody. The other thing too is I am really concerned about a copyright error, but I think this. In hindsight, I wish I wouldn't have brought this up, but I wanted to come out of one of my next meetings and go to Eric and just be like, hey, Eric, just so you know, we got a strike on the YouTube channel for a copyright infringement for you singing on the channel.
Ramon Bridges, God, Eric, you are so uncomfortable to watch. Imagine being me. Imagine how uncomfortable that is. Just saying. Oh, Duke agreed.
Yeah, Duke's like, yeah, we're all embarrassed.
Oh man,
he's brought shame to from the Lindquist household.
Nice spoken word, Eric. You're so very welcome. I do enjoy spoken word rap. Like when you take a rap song and you just kind of like do the. I'm just trying to think. Duke, stop it. Stop it. I'm on a show, okay? I know he gets antsy around this time now. It's like 7 minutes before. There's no basketball to react to live, but such is life. Eric, what's your rap name? What would my rap name be? That is for chat. That's what I need to know. What is Eric's rap name?
So look at the super chat from Squeak Diesel is very funny, and Squeak Diesel is a very funny name. Just the microphone.
Just a microphone. I can't help it. I got bars.
Eric's rap name.
Don't look at me like I'm freaking Frankenstein. Give your father a rap name.
I feel like we've done this before. Wasn't there some other time where we've had the chat give out a rap name for you?
Did we? It feels so distant. It
definitely happened at some point.
Thanks, Tyler. Are you joking me? Oh my God, I'm so suing you and for damages. Amber Heard style. This is a joke.
It's between that and Lil Lindy in my mind.
Lil Ducky is pretty funny. Lindy. I mean, that's my screen name. So there's that. Weatherman 7 $4.99 with the mic drop. Thank you for the sticker of the mic drop. Weatherman 7. He's really in. I hate him even more. Thanks, I hustle for it. You're welcome. I hate you.
Oh, that's right. It was. This is a good point. We've got some people in the YouTube chat that are loyal listeners, and this is now. June Sosa said that he believes it was a stripper name. That does ring a bell now. That is what it was. I forget. We had a stripper name for you, right. And we gave you a whole backstory.
Yeah. Quacky McQuackerson was something that somebody came up with. El Chapo, EL. Oh, I see Josh Killam. I see what you did. Soldier Boy Gillum. Eric the Animal. Quist Love, E Dollar. I watch all this. Just Lindquist Dive or Lindquist Live. I'm not sure how that one goes. LL. With the side emoji. That's not going to do it. 316 hater. Lil Lindquist, Lil Lindy. I could do Lil Lindy, except for that's impossible to say more than once. Lil Lindy.
I'm trying to think, because there's a part of me that thinks it should kind of be somewhat degrading at the same time also, but I don't know. I just can't think of the right.
Tyler's a bad person.
What did Tyler say? I have to bring our chat back up. Where's Tyler? What did Tyler say? I can't find it.
Lynn, please quit.
No. I could get behind that. Why did that not show up for me?
I don't know. Easy Quisty. That's pretty funny. It's a lyricist. He's a lyricist. I'm the hip hop hippopotamus. My lyrics are bottomless.
I think Paul George could get roped into this somehow.
Somehow he could. But in the meantime, we have 4 minutes to go here. Greg, no basketball to react to live. We've talked about Odd Shopper. We've talked about Prize Picks on a tangent. We've, of course, covered all of your DFS needs. Is there anything else you need the people to know about this DFS slate before we get out of here?
Oh, that's right. All right. Jumpo in our premium Discord channel. Your stripper name was Dave Tinkler.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that stupid shit. How have I not just quit? How have I not just left this place? There's going to be a stream. The day that I quit is probably going to be a day that I just take the headphones off and I walk out of the room. I'm just going to walk out. I'm gone.
Eric was the first stripper who used to pay the people at the club to pee on him. It wasn't even like people didn't pay him for favors. He just paid them. He was like, please do this for me. And people were all confused. They show up to the strip club and then they'd be like, but Eric, this is a Wendy's. And you'd be like, I don't care. Do it. So either way, Eric had a very successful career when he was Dave Tinkler.
Sure. This is a Wendy's. Yeah. Dave Tinkler. Nathan, $1.42. What's the symbolism of $1.42?
I don't know. I'm sure there's something.
$1.42. He's got to explain. Nathan H., you can't drop $1.42 super chat and not let me know what's happening. And yeah, I know. I hustle for it. I know you're kidding. You're good people. And for the most part,
I think Dave Tinkler should be your rap name and your stripper name.
Oh, great. Multi-talented.
Yeah. I think it should also be your screen name on FanDuel and DraftKings. They don't let you change it, unfortunately.
No, they will not. We are locked into eLindy4. Did you stuff with a no, Cohiba? What are we talking about here? No, it is what it is, man. It just exists. It's a beautiful thing. Okay.
Yeah, and you don't want to disappoint anybody.
You're a star.
You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like you don't want to be misleading because that's probably because that's the worst thing you do. You don't want to pull your pants down and somebody's like, you don't want there to be a real disappointment if you've been stuffing your pants. That's also Pete Davidson's talked about that, how he thinks that one of the things that Ariana Grande did, I listened to him talk about this in his stand-up, is she made up about the size of his unit in a song. So now there's just this expectation of every girl he's with for the rest of his life that he's packing heat when he isn't. And he just says that's something now he has to deal with for the rest of his life, which is hilarious.
That's pretty funny. Pete Davidson is actually a pretty funny guy. I don't understand. He's absolutely out of his mind with what he's able to pull off. But my God, congrats. If you can do it, if you got game, you got to just hate the game, not the player. It's not.
I did one comedy show with him, and he was supposed to go on stage. And when it was his time to go on stage, he was just sitting in his car smoking weed. And the manager of the stand in New York City asked me to go to his car and tell him it was his time to go on stage. And I could not have been more uncomfortable with the entire thing. So I just walked out to his car and stood next to it until he left, and then walked behind him and pretended I did my job afterwards. I wasn't going to disrupt him in his car.
That's a great story to leave on.
What
would you like his handler, I suppose?
But what would you if somebody's just sitting in their car smoking? Like, are you going to go bother him and tell him to stop? He has to go on stage and do comedy. It's not not. It's not the most professional of industries.
You did the right thing. Always do the right thing, Greg Ehrenberg. That's for sure. Guys, what an interesting extra half hour we had here today. Don't forget to go to Odd Shopper. Don't forget to go to, I believe it's awesemo.com/LBL offer. Take advantage of that BetMGM promotion. $10 to get you. $10 can get you $200 of free bets. Pretty simple. You want to take advantage of that. But Greg, any final words for the people as we head to the weekend?
It appears that the basketball game will not be starting at 7:45 either. So hopefully this game actually plays. If not, hey, maybe we're free rolling the slate.
I knew something weird was going to happen. Everything weird happened today. Thank you so much to Tyler Zander for being the nicest producer I've ever worked with. Thanks for all your kind words. He's Greg. I'm Eric.
Anytime, Dave.
Please leave. We're leaving.